Good evening. Today is Monday, June 16, 2025. I call to order a meeting of the Brockton Finance Committee. Will everyone please rise and join me in honoring our country by saluting our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody to the City Council chambers this evening to begin the discussions of our fiscal year 2026 budget. Councilors, I'm expecting a robust and thoughtful and professional discussion on our budget. I would ask that we keep our questions focused on budget-related matters for some of the department heads that come before us that we don't often see. I'd provide a little leeway for any policy questions, but all of us have done this before. Some of us a lot more often than we like to admit. I know we'll have a professional and thoughtful discussion. I want to make sure that we get through tonight and these next two nights as quickly, but also thoroughly. So looking forward to this discussion. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. CFO.
Good evening, Mr. President.
Welcome to the City Council chambers, and Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I first of all want to thank you for indulging for a few minutes. I truly want to thank you for your years of friendship and collaboration. As you know, this is my final budget. I started in 2006, so this will be my 20th budget here in the chamber, my 6th as mayor, but I quite honestly just want to thank each and every one of you. I want to thank the president, Jeff Thompson, who has been really helpful during his tenure to work with, and all the previous presidents that I've worked with in my capacity as mayor. We have collaborated, we have compromised, at times we have disagreed, but we have always been focused on the idea of helping the city, residents and business owners, always understanding the role of a public servant. So today I also have to thank the City Clerk Tim Cruz for his dedication in his current role and his previous role. My Chief of Staff Sydney Merrow is here today, and I have the best team that any mayor's office could ever have. And I'm joined tonight by Jasmine, Courtney, Suzanne, and Kevin. The man to my left, Dr. Troy Clarkson, has been an invaluable Chief Financial Officer, and his team. I have to give all of them a shout out because this budget is months and months of preparation and work product. Dr. Priya Tahiliani, who you'll hear from in a few moments, has been an exceptional collaborator as well with her team. So we are coming together today for the FY2026 budget. And I have to thank all of the department heads. Myself and the city clerk respectfully asked them to call the city councilors, and it's my understanding that you did receive calls from department heads. I have to thank Megan Bridges, the city solicitor, who has been an invaluable partner during my tenure as well. The budget books that you are looking at today, as I stood here before you 5 budgets ago, I promised that we would do better each year to get them to you. We got them this year 14 days ahead of the budget, 2 weeks ago. Last year it was 13 days, 10 days, 8 days, and so on. So I am so excited to be here tonight to talk about the budget, but I also want you to know that the budget before you is not just my budget. It's my budget for the next 6 months, and then the next mayor will achieve the success over the following 6 months, whoever he or she may be. I have to thank all of our dedicated city employees on the city side and school side, but also not just all of you as the local city council. The city councilors are exceptional legislators, but the school committee members who had a vote just a few weeks ago, and I chair the school committee to vote on the budget. And it's a historic net increase, $25 million increase. The first time ever in the history of the city of Brockton where we've seen an uptick on the net school spending increase for the contributions, and that's worthy enough to say because it was through collaboration with the school side and city side, 2 Zooms every week for months and months and months. I also have to thank all of our state officials because, of course, you all know we get our Chapter 70, Chapter 90 from the state. So the 3 state reps and the state senator, And also we have to thank our our county partners on the county, because again, 17.5 million came to the city on the ARPA, and the fruits of that labor has been rewarded, as you know, with the Council on Aging, the War Memorial, this building. Tonight we can finally feel air conditioning in this room. Thank you, Councilor Fowler, for noticing that. But also, I have to thank the federal delegation, Steve Lynch, who has really been a wonderful partner. But today, as we look at the budget and we contemplate what is the goal, well, the goal has always been, under my tenure, to foster a healthy, vibrant community with increased development. That increased development is happening and has happening. In spite of COVID, the city of Brockton, the city of champions, our city of champions, is vibrant, and development is helping our tax base. Matter of fact, I was with Lieutenant Governor this morning. Kim Driscoll was here in Brockton today at the roadway, and I told her we had budget tonight, and she said, well, the good thing that you did, Bob, was you didn't pause construction. So we'll continue to move forward, provide exceptional services to our residents and our business owners, but also the budget itself, and I know all of you have vetted it out, it maintains training for our departments and our employees within each department, because every employee can benefit through professional knowledge and updates, and that's something that last year I had to pause because of the deficit, but this year we're going to continue full throttle on that, because it's helping not just me as the mayor, but the next person that comes in. Again, from my perspective, we are committed to keeping the momentum going forward in Brockton. As such, we're going to be remaining smart financing, and Troy will opine on that, but we'll continue our strategic allocations of resources and appropriate administration of funds to ensure that the city operates at its highest level, which needs to be done at the optimum level, but also we have to look at the financial long-term stability of the city of Brockton. And again, at this time, I have to thank each and every one of you, because you all stepped up when the votes needed to be taken to give additional funding, and I truly will never forget that. I am always going to be a taxpayer and a resident of the city of Brockton. I'm just relinquishing the role as mayor, but I won't forget in tough times when we all came together. That's what collaboration, diplomacy is all about. So kudos to each and every one of you. In terms of the revenue forecast, I have asked Troy in his role to be conservative. We have to be conservative. We can't overspend. We have to be prudent. And again, that's proof in the pudding, because we could have used ARPA money to fill gaps. We could have used ARPA money to hire people, but we chose not to, because that would have been short-sighted. That would have been the wrong thing to do. And a lot of cities, the 351 in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, are dealing right now with overrides and layoffs. The city of Brockton is not, and I'm thankful for that. We are going to be committed, and I am committed, and this budget is committed to fully funding public education in our city of Brockton. And again, you'll be hearing from Dr. Tahiliani, but I have to say that the money being attributed right now on the non-net of $17 million and a little over $251 million on the net is historic, but that money is going to be used to benefit the students, the next generation, and the staff of Brockton Public Schools. I have to thank Priya for her efforts and her team. Trish is here, Kim Sai is here. There's many people on the school sides that you may not know, but everybody has stepped up and worked with us together, and that is something that we can all be proud of. I also have to thank, and you've heard him and you've met him, not in person, but on Zoom, Mr. TJ Plant from Open Architects, who's on call tonight if we need him, but he is someone that has been invaluable because he has been able to work with Troy as a designee from Dr. Tahiliani, and Troy is my designee, to work on this budget with Trish to craft something that's going to be rewarding for our residents and our students here in the City of Champions. So today I am saying that this budget reflects ongoing reviews and also goals and objectives of all department heads here in the city. And you've looked at their metrics, you've looked at the data, but I've asked them every other Wednesday when we meet in the GAR room to continue those efforts. After I'm gone, continue those efforts, because the train is going down the track in the right way, and it must continue. I also have to thank Superintendent McClellan, Holly McClellan, who cannot be here tonight, but there is someone from Southeastern Regional. 62% of the students at Southeastern Regional are from the city of Brockton. And if you're on Oak Street recently, I'd ask you to go up there if you haven't seen it. They are building right now a welcome center at DW Fields Park. The students from Southeastern Regional are building a welcoming center. And it's something that I'm so proud of, because it was 2 offline bathrooms that we had ripped down internally. Our construction people did it, and now the students, most of those from Brockton, are building an unbelievable structure that all of us can be proud of. So I want to thank them personally at this moment. But as we look forward into the next fiscal year, we have to set priorities, and I have done that, and I know the next mayor will also do that. We have to continue to build an inclusive, welcoming environment for our residents and our business owners, and also our visitors to the city of Brockton. We have to continue to promote Brockton, Massachusetts as a growing, desirable city to live in, to work in, and to visit. We have to foster and build partnerships with key stakeholders. We've been doing that very, very well with a new ownership group at the Brockton Rocks, and I know we are going to continue to do that with Boston Legacy FC, as a women's professional soccer team will be here in the city of Brockton for their training facility, and that's a game changer for the city of Brockton and for our tax base and for Howard Street. So I want to thank you, Councilor Lally, as well. Throughout the city of Brockton, we will continue to leverage our relationships here on the political side, the government side, with our business community and the Chamber of Commerce and our clergy. We have to continue to set the standard high with incentives and thresholds that we will not just meet but exceed. At this time, I'd like to also let you know that we are maintaining commitment to revitalizing the entire city of Brockton, all 7 wards, all 28 precincts. We're doing that through investment here in the city of Brockton, but also with money that we have from the feds, the ARPA money. That is something that I can tell you right now is unbelievable for the parks and playgrounds that have been touched and rehabbed by that money. And I was just talking to Mr. Minicello, Councilor Minicello. Will be going over to Ash Street later this week. We were just up at Tukas the other day, and I want to thank each and every one of you. But I'm here tonight to tell you that I'm proud of this budget because of the fact, simple as this. I asked Dr. Clarkson when we started this process many, many months ago, I said, Troy, I do not want to lay off a city employee. Simple as that. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. When you're talking about laying off just one person, that's one person's livelihood. That's their life. That's their mortgage. That's their kids' education. And we've achieved that. We've been able to balance the budget without a single layoff, which is something that I'm extremely proud of. So I respectfully ask each and every one of you tonight to ask the tough questions of all the department heads. Do your due diligence, do your homework. Again, at the end of the day, I am asking you in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 32, and I hereby recommend that the City Council, each 11 of you, please adopt the FY26 budget for the city as recommended in the budget audit. I have recommended total appropriations the amount of $618,764,670, and that total reflects an increase of $38,489,683 over last year's budget. I know Dr. Clarkson had some thoughts he'd like to share as well, but again, I thank you for your time this evening.
Good evening, Dr. Clarkson.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council, and our colleagues and members of the public that have gathered here. I share Mayor Sullivan's gratitude for your hard work and your review of this budget. I'd just like to share a few highlights of what's contained in these pages, and I'll look forward over the next several nights to getting into the detail with you, to answering your questions, and to working together to fulfill the mayor's and your priorities of having a budget, balanced budget that serves the people of the City of Champions. So each of the last 6 years when I've sat here before you, we've talked about the fact that this budget is a GFOA award-winning budget, and it's almost become routine. But I want to tell you that it continues to be an extraordinary achievement of which we should all be proud. It's not only the amount of work that goes into producing a budget with this level of detail, the narratives, the numbers behind the numbers, but it's what it represents. It represents a collective commitment to transparency and good government that only a handful of communities in Massachusetts are able to achieve. And so I think I highlight that. We've received that award 5 years in a row, and I certainly believe that due to the efforts of our budget director, Elvira Lopes, and the team that she's assembled, that this will once again win that award. And I wanted to start off with that recognition. But beyond the look and the feel of this budget, I wanted to share with you just a few highlights, because each budget each year is different, and this one has some components that I think are worthy of mentioning tonight. As we built this balanced budget, we did so in a way that was a little different than last year. In the FY25 budget, we did count on revenue from constructing some solar projects here in the city. That project, those projects have not gotten off as rapidly as we had hoped, and so to be conservative, as the mayor directed me, we are still pursuing those solar projects, the construction of canopies and rooftop solar here in the city, and I do expect that those projects will come to fruition in the next year, but we're not programming any revenue in this budget from those projects. You will see a new revenue source in the budget, and it's called a transfer from a special revenue fund. What that is, the law requires when we sell property that we didn't acquire in a tax taking. So when we acquire, we sell property that the city has owned for some time, the money can't go directly to the budget. It has to go in a special fund and then be transferred out. So you'll see an amount in the budget for that, and that will come primarily from the sale of the current police station when that building is vacated. The number that we've provided is significantly less than the current assessed value. So again, we're being very conservative. I mentioned both of those because our ultimate goal is to wean the city off of using those one-time revenues to balance the budget. It is not optimal, but it's something that's been necessary for us, and hopefully as the construction that's occurred now over the last decade here in the city begins to really create additional new growth, we'll be able to wean the city off of the use of one-time revenue. And speaking of the new growth, you'll see in this budget our new growth, which is the value of new construction, the tax revenue value of new construction here in the city. That's remaining consistent at about $2 million a year, and that's again a sign of a healthy Brockton and an environment where construction is occurring and we're able to reap the benefits of that tax revenue. This budget does once again utilize the advantage that we have. This year it's approximately $8.1 million in revenue from the Chapter 324 reserve. So we replenished that at a meeting of the City Council several months ago. We'll be using that money once again to balance the budget, and at some point when free cash is certified, we'll replenish that again. And again, we hope as stable, recurring sources of revenue increase, we'll be able to reduce the reliance on sources of revenue like that. On the expense side, I did want to highlight a few of the expense items here, some that are a change in how we're providing that information to you, and some are just our new expenditures. Most notably, I would just like to echo what the mayor said. This represents an historic increase in public education funding in the city of Brockton, and the mayor noted the collaboration that led to that number, and I'm certain that Dr. Tahiliani will talk about that in her presentation, but I too wanted to note that because I think it's significant and it's important. The way the school leadership and the city leadership have come together in the face of the recent deficit, worked together to present not only a balanced budget, but a consensus number, so that the number that's in our budget, the number that the schools are presenting are the same. And they're the same because we spent much time, hours and hours, working on developing that consensus number, justifying the city side expenses, and then working with the schools to try to meet their goals for funding for public education. And I think that's a significant achievement that's worthy of mention. You will notice in the Brockton retirement budget that the proposed amount of funding is roughly 50% of what our assessment is for this year. That is with the concurrence of the Brockton Retirement Board, and that is a deliberate presentation of only 50% of the money that's owed, because as I've discussed publicly and here at the City Council, we're working with our financial advisors and a team of finance professionals to look at whether or not we should issue additional pension obligation debt. You authorized $360 million, and we only issued $300 million of that, and we believe that there are long-term financial benefits to the city to issue additional pension debt. And our plan right now, if the interest rates cooperate, and that's a big if, we will be issuing additional debt in October. So if we do that, the money that we'll have on hand will be able to cover that additional expense for the retirement obligation. If not, in the unlikely occurrence that we don't move forward with that, we of course have $25 million that we've set aside in the Pension Stabilization Fund, so we would come to you likely in December and ask to pay the rest of the bill for this year out of that funding source. There is a new budget that you see, and that's the public safety building budget. That is a budget that we put together in collaboration with the 4 department heads who will operate out of the new building, and that was the work over many months that the 2 chiefs and the 2 other department heads and I and our teams met together. We tried to estimate the expenses. We talked about how best to meet those expenses. So those are things like not only utilities, but the maintenance of the building, the cleaning of the building. And so you'll see that budget. We are proposing that it be housed within the police department budget. So it has had input from all 4 department heads, but will be under the direction and the control of the police chief. That budget represents contracted services for most of the operation. We think we need a year to figure out what it's going to cost, what the challenges are going to be. It's a brand new building, so we don't expect a lot of maintenance, but that does represent a change that we wanted to highlight for you. In addition, the animal control budget no longer stands alone as an individual budget. As we all know, the animal control department reports to the police chief and is under the administrative direction of the chief of police. And so that budget is shown as a division of the overall police budget. And finally, this doesn't change the amount that we're asking, but we seek not only to improve the document each year, but when you're spending $500 million, each year we try to look at ways in which the budget is presented, assumptions that have been made over the years that perhaps we need to change or update. So this is a small thing, but I think it demonstrates the constant improvement that we seek, and not only how to present, but how to operate this massive budget. So you'll see money that was previously listed in these budgets under stipends is now listed under part-time salaries. Let me give you an example. You passed an ordinance change several years ago that now provides the opportunity for board members here that serve the city on various boards to actually get payment for that. That payment is regular W-2 wages. And so it had been represented in the budget as stipends, but actually it's part-time salaries. And so those well, they're no longer volunteers, right? They're special employees, but they receive regular compensation. And so we made that change to more accurately reflect how those funds are being spent. And so that's what we try to do, seek that constant improvement. So not only our spending is clearer to you, but to the public. I had the opportunity, as you heard during the public comment period, to meet with some citizens, to go over this budget, and that's the reason why we produce it in this detail, so that the public has a deeper and better understanding of what we're spending. Because as I said in my submission letter, and as I say to you every year, a budget is the most important policy document of any public organization. It says and it tells a story about what we collectively value. And as the mayor mentioned during his comments, what we value most is our people. And this budget reflects that value. And we value public safety and public education and public works, and those values are reflected in this budget document. So I look forward over the next several nights to reviewing this with you in detail, look forward to your questions, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Clarkson. Councilors, we're going to move on to the mayor's budget. Anybody have any questions for the mayor's budget? Councilor Razak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mayor, Mr.
Good evening, Councilor.
Clarkson. Thank you for your presentation. I just have a quick question.
Sure.
In your general fund, you have a line item for youth task force for $100,000. What is that used for?
Sorry, Council, I'm just trying to pull it up right now. It's on, are you looking at, I'm sorry,
Page
Council.
346, it's the last one after, like, the Women's Commission, Diversity Commission, Historical Commission.
Yeah, if you,
Youth Task
yep,
Force.
if you look at page 348, the breakdown is on the youth task force. It's contract services and also sundries and supplies. I can give you some examples. The contract service is part of the youth task force. The $100,000, many years ago when I became the mayor, at that time, Councilor Tina Cardozo wanted $100,000 attributed to that, and we did that. So the 50-50 breakdown is the first 50 for the contract services are the people cost, running the programs, Brockton After Dark program, the summer programs. Jasmine Bratcher, who's here right now, is working with both community schools and the YMCA for the pools for the After Dark program. And then the other 50,000, which is the office sundries supplies, that's the supplies, that's the advertising, that's the food that we provide to those that participate in the programs, and it's some of the giveaways. We give away some little Brockton stuff, the squeezy balls and some other things. So that's what the $100,000 is broken down into.
Thank you. That's why I asked the question. I remember when it was brought up, and I see that it's been in here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Lally, followed by Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Councilor.
Dr. Clarkson. I am as happy as you are, of course, to see the Boston Legacy finding their new home here. We're very happy about that. I wanted to start with full-time salaries.
Sure.
It looks like a large jump, but that's because there was a cut last year. So I was wondering the final difference, once that cut was restored, what's the final difference?
Great question, Council, because it looks like a huge, 62.7% looks absurd. The $574,693 was the amount after the $300,000 cut last year by the council. And as you know, many months later, we came back before you, and thank you, you reapportioned $249,000. So if you take the $249,000, which you reapportioned to us, plus the $574,693, it comes to $906,542. So if you look at that, plus what I'm looking for this year, the difference is $28,000, Councilor.
And where is that $28,000?
Sure. If you go to page 345, and we're looking at the salary line items for all of my team, that's not the current salary. Those are projections based upon a 2% increase, except for mine. The mayor's salary, I get $183,000 right now, and that is based upon the CPI index, which comes out August 1st. 1 year it was a $700 increase, but that's per ordinance. All the other figures are based upon 2%. And as I said last year, Chief of Staff Merrow has been brought up. Her increase last year, which all of you supported, I thank you, was to bring her in line with all the assistant department heads, which is, again, the ordinance position. So it's looking at bringing on talent. I have wonderful talent in my office. I have lost talent. There is a vacant position that's shown there right now. It's not vacant. It's been filled. She actually starts a week from, God bless you, a week from today. She has federal, state, and local experience, so she'll be coming in as the policy intergovernment associate, which Celia Canavan used to have before she left to become executive director of the Women's League of Voters. So I hope that answers your question, Councilor.
Oh, thank you. The other question I want to get right now is advertising. Advertising's held level. It went up a lot from the year prior. What have we spent on advertising? Has that been of use? Where has that gone, and why should we restore it?
Yeah, I mean, the 10,000, it has been used in the past for marketing purposes. Where Better Begins, that's not over. A lot of people think that marketing campaign is not over. I actually gave just a bunch of shirts out the other day to Boston Legacy folks and to the new Brockton Rocks ownership, and I dropped up about 20 to the new Starbucks across the street from Brockton High School. So the 10 grand is to try to market the city of Brockton. I believe 10,000 on a budget of over $500 million, I think is money well spent, but that's what the projection is, Councilor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilor.
Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Lally. Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, page 347, just a quick question on consultants. You did not have anything this year, although it might have been contained in the budget that was administered by the Finance Department, and I noticed $85,000 for FY26. Could you share some of your thoughts about how that would be applied?
Absolutely, Councilor. So consulting, exactly what you said. Last year, and I believe it was Councilor at Large Rodriguez had made the suggestion to consolidate all consulting into the CFO's budget. So all the departments that had consulting line items were zeroed out and put into the CFO's. I'll be honest with you, I think the intent and the idea from Councilor Rodriguez was phenomenal. I supported it, but it was truly a logistics nightmare. Anytime anybody needed anything for consultant dollars, Elvira and her team really had to do extra work. So the CFO, and I support his suggestion, was to go back to how it had been in the past, where each department head has the consulting figures in there. I can tell you in the mayor's office, we've used a consulting figure for many things. Thankfully, not in a long time, but Dr. Herman was paid out of that line item when he was the health consultant for the city during the pandemic. 617 Media and Dave Wedge was paid out of that line item when we used them for emergency situations. We've also used Collins Institute when we were looking to do some economic analysis, and we needed to have Mary Burnett here, and those were the line items. So the 85,000 is not unique to the mayor's office. Historically, it had been in there, but why it was zero and it looks like a huge increase is exactly what I just articulated.
But do you have something in mind coming up? Is that?
I do. I think there's a couple different projects that we would want to hire outside consultants to look at. I can tell you one, just the Circle of Trust, right? Troy and I reached out to an entity in South Korea that is a pharmaceutical company. We sent a letter, cold call letter, at the request of Dr. Jang, who was helping out and has been helping out students in Brockton. We all met Dr. Jang when he and his team brought handmade masks to us after the first case of COVID, and he is an invaluable partner of the city of Brockton. And we sent the letter and we showcased Brockton, and 5 of those individuals flew here from Seoul, Korea. We hosted them, the Commonwealth came in, and they're looking at some sites in the city of Brockton that would have to be packaged, they're privately owned, and I really think having consultant eyes, expertise eyes, nothing against our planning office, but there is some value, I think, in getting some other expertise. I'm not sitting here today and telling you the whole 85,000 is going to be spent. That would be not the right thing to do, but I do think that the 85,000 for 6 months plus the 6 months of the new mayor is the right amount.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Farwell. Councilor Rodriguez, followed by Councilor Castro.
Councilor.
Mr. Mayor, how are you?
Good evening, sir.
On that same page, basically, just a couple steps down, contractual services. In FY24, you used $9,100 in that line item, and the adopted in 2025 was 75, and you're asking for another 75. What do you normally use that line item for?
Well, we've used that in the past, and I know other mayors have used that in the past as well. When I first came in, we used it. I'm just trying to read my writing, but my eyes are... one of the things was a recruitment. We hired a headhunter to try to help us get some talent here in Brockton. That would have been last year. We also used it again for consulting services for economic revival. But again, from my perspective, the figure is in there. It mirrors what it was. I don't know if Dr. Clarkson can tell us what's been spent to date, because the previous year was a lot less. It was under 10,000. But, if the will of the committee is to cut some of that, I have no objections. But I would ask humbly that we keep enough money in there to be able to meet the needs of me for the last 6 months and then the new mayor.
Well, thank you. I just want to congratulate you guys on this budget book. As a matter of fact, I was going to wait for Dr. Tehiliani to come up and also thank them for the differences between the previous years and the current year, where it makes it a lot easier for some of us lay people to follow the budget. So congratulations on the book, on both books, that it looks wonderful. At least it gives us a sense that we're moving in the right direction.
Counselor, can I just share a quick story with you and your team here? When Priya was being interviewed, it was myself, it was Tony Rodriguez, it was Jorge, who's here today, and Anna Oliver. And we interviewed in the GAR room, and it was phenomenal. And Dr. Tehiliani did a phenomenal job across the board, right? It was unanimous. But right before Priya left the room, she took out of her portfolio a budget that all of us were shocked at. It was professional, it was concise, it told the story. It was from a different district, a different municipality, but there was a feeling among the four of us that this could happen here in Brockton, and she surpassed that with what you have today.
Well, not to kill a dead horse, but I mean, we are not used to what we got, honestly, on well, we've been used to getting this book from the city side, but at least from the school side. I remember last year, I think we got, 19 pages worth of something that I think Staples put together for us and stuff. So it makes a big difference for, to look at. Because I think it's symbolic. If we have a city that acts like a little town or a little, side business in the sense, it kind of takes away from the magnitude of a city of 110,000 or probably even more people. So I'm glad that actually took place, and we are reaping the benefits of the work that you guys did. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Sure.
Counselor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good
Councilor.
evening. You've answered most of my questions, both in writing and to my colleagues. The one thing I just thought I wanted to point out and give you an opportunity to speak to is, on page 346, your financial overview summary mentions a diversity commission. In fact, we no longer have a diversity commission. We have Human Rights Commission, which is really important in a richly diverse community. So just speak to that for a minute and how you're doing.
Yeah, I'd like to make a pledge, and I'd ask all of you if you could help us on this. We only have 2 current members that I've put forward that you've ratified. Pastor Wade, James Wade, has volunteered to be the chair, but they don't have a full capacity, and it's so important. We are an inclusive city, we're a welcoming city, we're an immigrant city, we always have been. So civil rights, human rights, all of it is just so important. So I'm going to make a pledge tonight. We haven't had a lot of people interested. We had people on the previous commission. We offered them a chance to be reappointed to the new commission. Many of those folks chose not to. I don't know why, but they made a personal decision. So again, Council, if you or your colleagues can come up with some more people, I will put their names forward for ratification as soon as possible.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good to see you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this short. In terms of your purchase of service, I see that you have an increase of $85,000. In 2000, during your FY 2024, right, you requested $148,000 and plus, and in 2025 it was $214,000, and this year it's about $300,000. Can you talk about that?
Sorry, I lost you, Councilor.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That is mainly due to the fact that as the mayor discussed before, the consultant money was shifted to the finance budget for this current fiscal year, and it's being restored, proposed to be restored for FY26. And so that's a difference of $85,000.
Good. And also, too, in FY 2024, in your personal services, non-OT, your request was $778,157, and this year you asked for $1 million. In total, there's an increase. I mean, I know that we cut it last year, but that increase would be like $360,688. I understand that in FY 2025, we went after your budget, took some of that money. But to go from 2024 to 2026, that's a big jump.
We increased, if you look at that line item, great question, Council. If you look at the increase just specific to part-time salaries, I only have one individual in my office that's part-time salary, and that's Mr. Joseph Francois, who was served with Mayor Balzotti, Mayor Carpenter, Mayor Rodriguez, and myself. But what we have done, if we increased the money on that line item relative to be able to pay interns here. We pay interns, college-educated interns, $15 an hour. So that had not been done on a regular basis for previous mayors. But between that and the COLA increases, that's what the difference is right there.
And to follow on from that, Councilor, in addition, if you look at, and I'm glad you asked that question, because this is an important distinction as we review this budget in all departments. That first column is not what was budgeted in FY24. It was what actually spent. And we thought that was important, so to give you that texture. So we can go back and find out what was budgeted for FY24, but it would have been much more than that. So the actual spent in the mayor's office for salaries for FY24 was $778,000. And the reason why that's less than what was appropriated is because as vacancies occur, that money doesn't get spent. And so that's the reason for that reduced number.
Great. In terms of interns, Mr. Mayor, so from July 1st, 2024 to present, how many interns had you have in the office?
Well, we have 2 there now. Sydney, how many do you think we've had? Yeah, Jasmine, you've had some. Courtney, you've had some. 2, 4, 6. 6 or 7, Counselor.
6 or 7, and I believe you said you paid them. Obviously, we don't have to discuss how much we paid them.
$15 an hour, it's minimum.
Excellent. So, I mean, how many do you plan on hiring from now on until January 1st? You have like a big list of kids?
I don't know, Counselor.
Okay.
I don't know. But I'd rather have the money in there so that if we hire talent, that'd be great.
Excellent. Well, listen, I just want to acknowledge this publicly. Obviously, last year you and I, had a little conversation in terms of the library, and I think you know how passionate that I am about the library. And as I was looking at the library budget, you actually increase it without even having a conversation, with me. In terms of respect and the ability to talk as public official, I think that I have an obligation to acknowledge it.
Thank you.
We did not talk about it this year, and I think you understand my feelings last year, and I was kind of worried about what you were gonna do, and I took a look at it. I was very surprised to see that you increased it. I just want to thank you publicly because I know that.
Thank you.
You and I know that money will do good to our residents, and to be fair, I think you and I had multiple conversations about the importance, the value, and how much the library represents for our community. Because without that place, as you and I know, there are so many kids in our city who may not have access to the internet, who may not have access to a laptop, or who may not have access to a book. And, man, I commend you on that. Thank you
very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tavares.
Hey, Councilor.
Hi, Councilor. Good evening, and thank you for being here today. Actually, I have one question. My question is on the page 347 about contracting service. I just want to, if you can explain it more about those contracts and if you're still using it.
We do use it, Counselor. Again, before you take the ratification vote next week, Elvira and Troy can give you what we spent to date. But the contract services itself are utilized, again, recruitment, as I said to one of the councils, recruitment, headhunting. Again, we need to make sure that we get the right people, the professional, skilled people. Now, nothing against HR. We thankfully have Sandra Knight back here. But before that, the mayor's office used money to try to bring talent back to the city of Champions.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you,
and
Councilor.
I think that's the last question. And then second about the budget, like my colleague just said, was better than last year. I'm not going to give you 100% rate because I was, since I've been here, I don't like to see others. I've been seeing a lot of others, which I'm going to be questioned a lot because I'm not expertise in accounting. That's one thing I hope next year this is not going to happen, others. Because when you say others, expansion, we got to go through all the question and try to understand what those mean. And I hope next year, we wish we can work better on the others, just to be a little more transparency for people like me does not literally understand accounting things to kind of be more transparency.
Thank you, Council.
And I appreciate it, to see you guys did it.
I will come in next year as a resident,
Yes.
not as the mayor.
What I was gonna
But again,
be.
I concur with you on that. Thank you,
Correct,
Council.
yes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Council.
that.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Minicello.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Clarkson.
Good evening, sir.
Could you just address the tourism promo?
Absolutely. The tourism promo of $45,000, we have used in the past and we will use again to market, in this case, the new ownership of the Brockton Rocks. I don't know if anybody has gone up there. I was there just this weekend. We need to get more people in the seats, not just in Brockton, but Brockton and beyond. Museum, Fullercraft Museum, working with the Chamber, and I do anticipate not to spend the full 45 before I conclude my term, but between myself and the next mayor, we really have to market the heck out of people coming to Brockton to watch professional women's soccer on Howard Street, but also to check out the Liberty Tree, which we acquired under my watch. Before I leave as mayor, I'm going to have a Frederick Douglass bust put up there on Frederick Douglass next to Liberty Tree. Marvin Hagler's statue, thanks to all of you, is phenomenal. And so the tourism on a city of, and I concur with you, Council, it's more than 106 for the federal census. It's probably more like 115 to 120,000 people. I think that 45,000 has been used the right way, but we need to, I think, do it in a smart way to get the biggest bang for the buck, Council.
So I remember seeing, I think it was last year's promo, which I thought was excellent. So I take it you're obviously, every year things change, new endeavors in the city of Brockton, like you said, with regard to the soccer and the Rocks. So this is obviously a new promo that will be done to keep, to be current with what's going on in Brockton. It's not going to be just stagnant.
No, it can't be stagnant.
Yeah.
We'll lose
Okay.
the opportunity.
Okay, thank you with regard to that question. And then the second question is for, I think, more Mr. Clarkson. With regard to the $8 million that we're taking with regard to reserve funds in order to balance the budget, what does that do to our current amount that we will have in reserves after utilizing those monies? What would be our balance?
I'll give you a general number, Counselor, off the top of my head, but then I will provide to you documentation for all the reserves. So in that case, in that number, the number in the Chapter 324 reserve actually goes up every year.
Okay.
Because in Chapter 324, the Acts of 1990, there's a formula that requires us to increase that amount every year. And so this $8.1 million represents the amount that was required for this current fiscal year. And if you recall, we used the entirety of that fund to balance this year's budget, but then when free cash was certified, we came to you and asked you to transfer that amount into the fund. And the requirements of the fund are such that we do anticipate when free cash gets certified after July 1st, that we will have sufficient funds in free cash to then replenish that fund. But on top of that, we have general stabilization. We have the remainder of free cash for this year, which is just a little over $6 million that we're using to balance this budget. And then we also have that pension stabilization fund that has, I believe, over $25 million in it. So I'll get the exact amount to you. But with that pension fund, we were actually able to increase the city's overall reserves to more than we've ever had. And so both the Chapter 324 and the free cash are a number that even though we deplete them, we then replenish that number when the year comes along. And so my hope is that, again, as we rely less on one-time revenues, we can begin to put more money back into the general stabilization fund, which I believe right now, and again, I'll get the exact number for you, has a little over $2 million in it.
So do you anticipate being able to replenish close to the $8 million, or?
we're required, actually, to replenish all of it, and we will do so. And that number will go up slightly for next year. But my hope is, as I said, that at some point, we can use less and less of those one-time revenues as we develop more sustainable annual revenue sources.
And with respect to the other available reserves that we have, did I miss it, or is it not included in here? Is it listed somewhere in the budget book? Because I certainly could have missed it with regard to all the information that's in here.
This book does not have a list of all of the reserve funds and the balances, but,
Okay. All right.
but my team can put
I was
that
looking
together for you, and we'll email it to
Okay,
you.
thank you. I'm glad I didn't miss it then. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Thompson.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mr. President.
Earlier this year, as chairman of the school committee, you voted in favor for the Commonwealth to conduct an audit of both city side and school side finances. Do you intend to submit an order to the city council seeking us to conduct a vote on this issue? If so, when? If not, why not?
I don't, Council, and I'll tell you why. And I said it last year at the budget as well. When the deficit came to light, I reached out to Auditor Diaglia, and I asked her if they could assist on that, and she said that they could if the mayor did a letter, but it had to be an authorization vote from the city council. I spoke to many councilors, if not everybody, and they said, don't waste your time, it's not going to pass here on the council. I did not want to embarrass, and I remember saying this to the budget last year, I did not want to embarrass the legislative body or the city council or the city as a whole to submit that. If the attitude of the city council has changed, I'm happy to do it. I just would not want to submit something that isn't supported.
Well, obviously, we wouldn't know it was supported, until it was before us and we had a debate on it. That's why I wonder why you voted in favor of it at the as chairman of the school committee.
Yeah, I mean, I support my colleagues on the school committee, much like I supported when I was a colleague up here. But again, the school committee can request it, the mayor can request it, but only the legislative body, the city council, can approve it. And I'll stand on the facts that if the city council will approve it, I'll submit it. But if the city council isn't going to approve it, which I was told last year by all the city councilors that they weren't going to approve it, but if that attitude has changed, I'm happy to do it. But I also think we've had OA and two other outside auditors analyze the situation.
Right. I'm not speaking on the substance of the issue itself. Just wondering, as that since you voted for it in favor at the school committee, whether we'd be expecting to see that come before us. But I believe your answer is that you would not be sending an order to us for the city council to vote on that issue.
Unless the will of the committee changes, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Counselor. If there is anyone who hasn't spoke who wants to speak? Nope. Counselor Derenoncourt.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor, I just want to acknowledge, publicly, in regard to what my colleague, the council president, just stated, I would like to take a vote on that. I would like to see that report come in front of the council, and let's see what happened. And obviously, you probably speak to some of us, but I believe that let's see what happened from there, because I got my vote. I can tell you this from here. You will get my vote on that. I am willing to vote in favor of it. So
thank you, Councilor.
Maybe you can work your vote from this one. At least you have one so far.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just give two pieces of information while I still have the floor. Number one, all of you will be invited to the ribbon cutting and the door opening of the public safety building. As I told you last year, John Fish and Suffolk are going to meet the deadline and then some. The promise was to get it summer of '25, and that will be achieved. Now, summer does go into September, just to let you know, but it will be done this summer. Departments have already talked about moving in, and, if you choose to do a tour prior to the official, by all means, we can coordinate that. And the other thing is, one thing Troy, Dr. Clarkson didn't mention, but we talked about it earlier today, we recently did a real property auction. I want to thank Mr. Brophy, the treasurer collector. We reaped almost a little over $1 million on that, which was not forecasted in last year's budget. But I've asked him and Mr. Morris, Mike Morris Procurement, to set up 3 RFPs for the Whitman Elementary School, which Mr. Fowler and I went to. also the Shaw School on the east side, and the Huntington, the Howard School. So there will be 3 properties. And I think what's different from when Mayor Carpenter tried that is the Lincoln School. The Lincoln School is an unbelievable and Ward 2 example of what can be done. NeighborWorks Housing Solutions, they just got an award. Rob Corley, the CEO, just sent me this notification. That is geared towards senior housing, and it's off the charts. So I think prior to that, the Lincoln School renovation, I think some people were a little leery because a lot of these buildings were built in the late 1800s, but I think there's proof in the pudding. So just let you know that they'll be put out at some point, and I'll update you all on the progress.
Great. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Appreciate
Thank you, everybody.
that. Oh, Councilor Farwell, did you have something?
I did, and forgive me, you opened the door on this, so I want to talk a bit with the mayor about this issue of the audit.
Please go right ahead.
Mr. Mayor, we spent, I think it's $814,000 for an independent audit from Nystrom, Beckman, and Paris. They did an exceptional job. They went over hundreds and hundreds of pages of emails, financial transactions, memoranda, interviewed people. The school committee then voted to have its own audit. We also have had basically ongoing audits where you have participated with meetings with state officials, you and Dr. Claxon and the superintendent. We also have an independent audit firm that comes in at the end of the year and audits our books. And we also have the Department of Revenue, which has to certify our free cash, and also has to, I believe it's the Division of Local Services, has to certify our valuation before we can send out tax bills. So, as a resident, as a counselor, I think we've audited ourselves to the maximum extent possible. Now, if the school committee, with all due respect, because it's being initiated by them, if they want an audit and you're going to put in an order for it, then I think you should at least determine how much it's going to cost, and we should make the residents aware that we might be kicking off another round of expenditures for something which I think is, at this point, perfectly absurd. I mean, I think Dr. Claxon has been so focused, like a laser, on city finances, as has the superintendent of schools, as has our auditor. And I think to detract from that work, which has been validated by Standard & Poor's Global, changing their financial outlook from negative to stable for the city, would be such a mistake. We're taking our eye off the ball, which is to take this fiscal year 26 budget and maximize what we can do for our residents, maximize what we can do for our schools and our school children, and we get, I'm afraid, pulled away with these extraneous suggestions, accusations, intimations that something needs to be done. And I just hope before you submit anything, what is it going to cost? If the school committee wants it, they should pay for it, and let's make the public aware of what we would have to spend for it.
Thank you, Councilor. I stand on it. I'm not submitting anything that's going to embarrass the city of Brockton. The next mayor may, but this mayor won't. And I will tell you this, that the conversation with A&F, Secretary Gorkowitz, with Mr. Bell and Mr. Sullivan at DESI, and Sean Cronin at DOR continue. We are scheduled to have another one in August with them, the last one, and it's not just Dr. Clarkson, myself, and the solicitor. It's Dr. Tihiliani and her team, and Vice Chair of School Committee, Mr. Rodriguez, and TJ Plant. Those conversations continue. They're going to continue for a while, but we are trending in the right direction according to what they're reporting back to us.
I think so, and I think we're dealing with honorable people who are carrying out their duties and responsibilities professionally, and I can tell you, and you and I have been together in the council and in government for a long while, if I thought for a moment that anyone was doing anything illegal, if I thought for a moment that spending wasn't in line with Department of Revenue guidelines, state law, I would be the first one to pick up the phone and call the Attorney General or the federal government. I don't fool around when it comes to that type of thing. So if people think that somehow we need an audit because something isn't right, if something isn't right, you can be sure this guy would report it. And I'm comfortable with the work that you and Dr. Claxon and everyone have done. I think you have all done a remarkable job under very difficult circumstances. And as a resident and a counselor, I thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilor Farwell. All right, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, number 2.
Item number 2, Southeastern Regional Schools. Holly McLennan, Superintendent, and we did receive notification today that she could not make it. Assistant Superintendent Mark Morris is with us.
Mr. Morris, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Again, I want to respect your time tonight. I'll give you a brief overview of our budget. But again, if you have any questions or anything in more detail, feel free to ask. To stay in the theme of the mayor, Southeastern is also very prudent with their budget going forward in FY26. This budget that's presented to the City Council here in Brockton is at the net school spending requirements from the state for Southeastern Regional. So we're at the minimum requirements that the state requires us to be at. Our budget for FY26 is $41,373,750. That is made up of foundation budget $38,734,575, which is made up of $24,546,392 of state aid and $14,188,183 of local assessments. We also have regional transportation. So for Southeastern Regional, the 8 towns in the city that we service, we provide transportation, and that is to be fully funded by the state. We're getting there. It's never been fully funded, but we're up into the high 80s, low 90s. So this year's estimate is $1.553787 in state aid, leaving $779,013 in local assessments for our regional transportation. Good news is the enrollment from the city of Brockton at Southeastern is up by 38 students. Again, as the mayor stated, 62% of our students come from the city of Champions here in the city of Brockton. And just on a quick note, I know the mayor mentioned the Welcome Center that our students are building here in the city. Just to let you know, the students are very proud of that. If you could see how happy they are when they talk to their instructors, talk to the administration, that they're able to give back to their communities. They're very happy. We always look forward to opportunities like this to give back to the towns or the city. So please, let everyone know that the students are very proud of what they're doing, and they're able to give back to the cities and the towns that they come from. Our total enrollment at Southeastern is also up by 25 students at 1,702 students. The assessment for FY26 for the city of Brockton is $5,386,307, and that's up by $86,693. So the total cost per student at Southeastern for the city of Brockton is $4,997 per student. And that for the 62% that we have at the school. Again, that's just a brief overview. If there are any in-depth questions or anything you'd like me to touch on any more, I'd be more than happy to.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome.
Thank you.
I have this isn't a question on the budget, but it's just a quick comment that, you stated that 62% of the kids that actually are at Southeastern Regional are from Brockton, yet, at least as far as I know, we were not invited to the graduation this year of the 62% of the kids that actually graduated from your school. And I would like to know, one, as to why that actually happened, because we had been invited in the past, because last year I went to the graduation, but this year I did not get an invitation to participate. And we have many, many, many family members, Brocktonians basically in general, that graduate from that school. How come your committee or your school doesn't feel that it's important for this body, in the sense that represents the citizens of this city, to be present at that graduation?
I wish I had an answer for you, but that's a great question. I'm going to look into that because I was not aware that the city was not invited, and shame on us, really. I think the city of Brockton should be invited, not only, regardless if you have 62% or if you have 1%. I think you should be invited. I will find out the answer why that did not happen, and I look forward to next year the city of Brockton being invited.
No, I mean, I'd like to.
And I'm very sorry that it didn't happen, and I don't have the answer. I wish
The previous years we were, but this past year, at least I don't know if any of the other councils, at least I didn't get one. And
I'll definitely say the intention of Superintendent McLennan and myself is not to not invite the city. So I'd have to say it was an oversight. But I will look into it to make sure that happens.
Well, it would be nice to, make sure that it doesn't happen, because, again, we're going back to the citizenship of the city in the sense that says, hey, I send my kid to the school that we support, And yet, you guys, this is exactly how it was told to me, yet you guys were not at the graduation of my kid. And I'm like, it's kind of hard for us to show up. I mean, we went to our own graduations at various schools here in the city because we were invited, or we were told that there was a graduation. But I think it would be nice to put that on your agenda for next year to make sure that that at least the representatives of the folks that you are educating in the schools are invited.
Point is well
to graduation.
taken, and again, I'm sorry it didn't happen, and I'm actually ashamed that the school didn't send out an invitation. I can't go back to fix what's been done, but I can promise you going forward, we will take care of that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? Seeing none? Mr. Mayor.
Chairman, if I could, I just want to give a shout out. The #1 ranked student that just graduated is a Brocktonian, and I want to give him a shout out. His name is James Williams. He graduated #1. He was the valedictorian, and kudos to him, another champion from the city of Brockton. Thank you.
Way to go, Mr. Williams. No further questions, so thank you for appearing tonight, sir.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Well.
Item 3, Brockton Public Schools, invited Dr. Priya Tahiliani, Superintendent of Schools.
Madam Superintendent, it's great to see you again, and thank you for joining us this evening. As well, Ms. Boyd, thank you for joining us. I know Councilor Rodriguez kind of touched on it a little earlier, but the budget that you submitted this year was, night and day compared to what we've seen in the past. It was comprehensive, it was informative, and we really appreciate the, the level of detail that you provided us this year. And we look forward to your presentation. So please, the floor is yours. Oh, sorry, and prior to begin, I just want to acknowledge some of the school committee members that are joining us this evening. School committee Vice Chair Tony Rodriguez, school committee member Jorge Vega, school committee member Joyce Azak, and school committee member Tim Sullivan. I believe that's who's in our room. Thank you for joining us this evening, colleagues. We appreciate your your time and attention here. So with that being said, now, Madam Superintendent.
All right. Thank you so much. So you guys have the presentation in front of you?
Jump right in.
All right. Good evening, City Council President Thompson and esteemed members of the City Council. Thank you so much for having us here this evening to present the Brockton Public Schools FY26 budget. As you know, this process began months ago as BPS has been on a meaningful path of improvement in how we build and manage our annual budget. I do want to thank my leadership team who is here in the room today. I want to thank interim CFO Patricia Boyer, who's sitting next to me today, who has put off a well-deserved retirement in order to support the Brockton Public Schools. And I do want to thank all of you and all of our partners at the city, as this budget is a true product of our collaboration. For FY26, our goal was to create a budget that is more transparent, precise, and reflective of our operational needs. We used what we have learned from the deficit of FY23 to make smarter, more data-informed decisions. In alignment with the most substantial recommendations from the independent reviews by Nystrom, Beckman, and Paris, and RSM, we have crafted a budget that is based on prior actual expenses to the extent possible, given the information we have, and that provides an ambitious and achievable roadmap for the future. More importantly, we have built this budget, again, in full collaboration with our partners at City Hall. We believe this budget marks the beginning of a new chapter for our city and for our schools. So before I jump into the numbers, I do want to emphasize the foundation upon which we have built this budget, and those are our priorities as a district as outlined in our strategic plan. Our priorities have remained on early literacy, the adoption of high-quality instructional materials, and developing multi-tiered systems of support that ensure access to learning opportunities and equitable resources for all of our students. So our net school spending budget comes from two sources. The state provides aid, which is also called Chapter 70, and the state also establishes an amount that must be allocated by the city, also called the local minimum contribution. This gives us our net school spending budget, as well as costs incurred by the city for the schools or held on the city side, such as health insurance and pension costs. We have been working collaboratively with the city to create a clearer methodology for how we calculate these costs. We've made a huge amount of headway, but there is still certainly work to be done, and both sides are committed to doing this work in the future. Still, the Schedule 19 in front of you, like our budget overall, demonstrates a huge step forward for our city and for our schools. Here's a more detailed accounting of those numbers that shows how we get to that final net school spending dollar amount. First, we start with the enrollment and the two sources of funding to get to our required net school spending. From that is deducted our charter tuition, our school choice tuition, and our special education assessment, which are also known as Schedule 19 on the state side. Then we have Schedule 19 on the city side, which includes municipal costs, pensions, and health insurance. Here you will also see our agreed upon amount for net school spending, for non-net school spending, which is $17 million, to pay for our community schools program and transportation. This slide gives you an idea of how our budget is changing from FY25 to FY26. This includes Chapter 70 and the local contribution, which are calculated by the state. As you can see, there has been an increase by 10% for our Chapter 70 aid and an increase of 7% for our local minimum contribution, which brings our overall budget to an increase of 9.6%. Our Schedule 19 costs are following a similar trend and have gone up by 6%, but even after Schedule 19 costs have been deducted, our overall budget has increased by 10.9%, which is significant and largely attributable to the full funding of the Student Opportunity Act. I do want to thank our state legislators for their tireless efforts in bringing this funding to full fruition. I know this was a result of many years of advocacy to ensure that cities like ours have the resources that we need to support our diverse student populations. And I want to extend gratitude on behalf of myself and my colleagues from around the state in making these funds a reality. Our overall budget is based on our enrollment, which is why it is important to understand our trends over time. Here you see our district enrollment for the past 3 years and what we expect for the next 3 years. The takeaway is that Brockton's enrollment has remained consistently above 15,000, even as demographic changes between millennial students and Gen Z reshaped the broader picture in the Commonwealth, which is what you see on the right-hand side. While the numbers of students we have has stayed steady, this slide shows the demographic breakdown has shifted a bit over time. Specifically, the first chart shows how the special education population has been increasing at a time when overall enrollment remained consistent. And as you can see on the right-hand side, our English learner population has increased tremendously over the last 2 decades. Here's a more detailed view of our special education enrollment over time. Obviously, this means a greater proportion of our students are receiving special education services, which necessitates special education being a budget driver for the next fiscal year. The second chart shows this current year's percentage of students who DESE identifies as high needs. In addition to special education students, the district's English learners and low-income students combine to paint a picture of high needs throughout our district. The over 84% total means that an average class of 25 students, 21 have one or more life circumstances putting extra stress on their day-to-day learning. Our students' needs are great, and the resources required to meet all students' needs is pictured here. The chart shows that what drives the largest costs as a percent of the total 2026 requested budget. Clearly, the largest driver is BPS staff at above 77%, which will be broken down further in our next slide. Allocating resources for instruction, such as textbooks, classroom supplies, and educational materials, make up the largest piece of the pie. And after that is building operations, which, along with the technology and data, complete the facilitation of staff and students' access to their instructional materials and other resources. Here we see the largest budget driver, BPS staff, broken down by more specific categories. As you might expect, the largest group is our classroom teachers at almost 42%. Notably, two of the next three largest groups are also classroom-facing, our paraprofessionals and substitute teachers who play an integral role. The non-union and other staffing groups comprise the essential people playing a more behind-the-scenes role in the day-to-day functioning of our schools. You'll notice from our budget that the district is requesting the majority of the addition of positions to support our growing population of students with disabilities. This request is grounded in both legal requirements and our strategic commitment to equity and instructional excellence. Additionally, in alignment with federal and state mandates, the district must maintain compliance with maintenance of effort standards, which ensure consistent financial support for the education of students with disabilities. These positions are necessary to prevent the district from incurring increased costs related to compensatory services, which the district is still providing as a result of our hiring not keeping pace with the growing population of students needing special education services. As our population of English learners continues to grow, the addition of bilingual and ESL certified teachers is necessary to ensure we meet both the instructional and linguistic needs of our students. Expanding our English learner staff will support equitable access to curriculum and accelerate language acquisition across grade levels. Finally, not in the form of positions, but rather in the form of capital and equipment, this budget supports the replacement and modernization of outdated equipment across CTE pathways, much of which has not been updated or replaced in decades. To maintain CTE program designation and ensure alignment with industry standards, these investments are essential. Updated tools and technology will provide students with hands-on experience using current resources, enhancing program quality and preparing them to compete effectively with peers in CTE programs statewide. BPS continues to work toward expanding the programs as well through grants and partnerships, which will require local investments in facilities, equipment, and staffing over time. One of the questions that was asked that I did want to share was about the 52 new positions that are required that are listed on page 53 in order to meet the growing needs of our growing and changing population. So several of these positions were needed this past school year, but were not included in this last year's budget, and so we are making sure to include them in this year's budget. I also wanted to provide some context around circuit breaker, as that has been a topic of discussion and questions. The circuit breaker program provides financial assistance to public school districts to offset the cost of delivering high-cost special education services. Pricing and reimbursement percentages are set by the state. On this chart, you can see how those percentages have changed over time. Transportation costs are aggregated with tuition costs, and only the portion above the annual threshold is reimbursed. The threshold for FY25 is at $52,419. Last year, we were at 44% of eligible costs over the threshold of $51,000, and this year we're still waiting to see what the reimbursement rate will be. When it comes to transportation, only transportation to an out-of-district placement is eligible for reimbursement. In-district transportation, even if listed in the IEP, is not eligible. Transportation must be explicitly required in the student's IEP. Documentation must include invoices or internal costs per student. Annual claims are due in July, and DESE processes them for reimbursement quarterly in the following year. As I stated back in March, we were seeking to reclass allowable expenses to our circuit breaker, and while the fiscal year is not yet over, it does seem that at this time we have been able to bridge the gap that we had expected to face when it came to our transportation costs for this year. Some of the budget improvements that hopefully you'll notice are as a result, especially of the audits, which were the elimination of the 199 account, where 80% of our budget was placed many years ago. We've also delineated budget lines more clearly. As we are delineating the budget lines, have also been working to align those budget lines to DESE so that our end-of-year reporting is that much easier. And we are also following, again, best practices for budgeting. So our budget request for this year is based on actual expenses as much as possible. So in the first budget book that you received that went back to FY23, you'll see that there are a lot of dashes where those actual expenses were unknown. We've been doing our best to track down the historical budget, but you'll see for the past 2 years that we are making headway. Those numbers are listed, and again, as we build upon each budget every year, that historical budget will become more accurate. So here's an example of the improved budget. So the personnel services category or school payroll made up 80% of the total budget, but the FY23 budget and related budget preparation documents did not include any employee information and were not broken down by school department or position. That way, unfortunately, because of that, the school committee could not then assess how funds were distributed between different schools, departments, and positions, or whether there were increases in employee counts or payroll increases from prior years. So this year, we were able to break down those expenses by school and by department, and our goal with every school year and fiscal year budget is to make those lines even more detailed and transparent. You also received our community-facing budget book. This is a budget improvement that we wanted to put on our website as a way to ensure that the entire community had access to our budget in a way that was consumable. So it explains a lot of the things that I mentioned today as far as the net school spending, but it also goes into tailored information regarding each of our individual schools, our individual departments, the demographics for each schools, the mission of the schools, and also their school initiatives. So overall, our goal for this year has been to position ourselves for success. So this slide provides a lot of the different buckets of work that we have been attempting in order to make sure that we are in a better position, and I do believe that we are in a better position this year, but I think what's important too is that we're positioning ourselves for greater success for next school year. So with our improved legal procedures, our improved auditing process, proper procurement being done on the school side, also a vested interest and collaboration with the city and leveraging our consultants. So again, thank you to Open Architects. We do believe that not only is this budget a better reflection of where we are as a school district now, but we do believe that we're positioned for greater success in future budgets. At this time, we'll take any questions.
Councilors. Councilor Minichiello.
Good evening, Superintendent. Nice to have you here this evening. It's great to hear about an increase of almost 11% with regard to the school funding formula. I'd like to point out that our mayor, and in fact, Councilor Rodriguez, prior superintendents, Smith, Mike Thomas, prior CFO Aldo Petronio, and many others, our delegation, Brockton was a leader with regard to having the funding formula revamped. And I remember Councilor Rodriguez going into Boston in meetings, coming back, telling us about how those meetings went. And it was a long slog, I can tell you that, to get the legislature to go along. But our delegation, thank goodness, was behind us, and a lot of good people were able to have that funding formula revamped. And basically today we're seeing, the benefits of that, thank goodness, because obviously this is a very beneficial funding increase to Brockton. With regard to your budget, special ed is obviously a very expensive and a very critical piece of our budget. Could you tell me just a little bit about, since you've been here, in terms of bringing things more in-house, building on what we have, because, years ago, Brockton was known throughout the state as having a heck of a good special ed department. And, the more we do in-house, the more beneficial financially to Brockton it is. Could you just tell me, since you've been here, what what changes have been made and how we are doing with regard to savings and programs, increasing programs for our students in the community.
Absolutely. So my understanding is that there was a school that was closed a few years ago. And so when you are looking at our enrollment, and I can find the page, I believe it's page 36 in your budget, it actually outlines the number of out-of-district placements we've had over the course of the years, and you will see that spike in FY23 and FY24, I believe, when we closed a school. However, we have the Brockton Therapeutic Day School now, and we have been working to bring back more students into the district. And so you'll see that our FY25 numbers have lowered. Unfortunately, that hasn't translated into lowered costs because costs have been going up. So each student represents a larger amount of cost, both in tuition and transportation. However, we are working to bring our students back into the district. We also are, for the first time this year, part of a collaborative. So even though I believe we used to send students to the Reeds Collaborative before, we were not a member district, so it did cost more money. So now we are also trying to be more efficient with our out-of-district placements by being a member district of the Reeds Collaborative. So that way we are getting those tuitions at a lower rate, but also they do provide in-district services or itinerant services as well to our students. So we are trying to provide more services again here. So by having a collaborative, for example, be able to provide services to our student, that then makes it so that we do not have to send more students out. So this is an area of growth for us, when we'll continue to work to ensure that our students are coming back in, or that we're keeping as many students in the district as possible, because we know that's what's best for our students.
High school used to have the program, and maybe they still do, Boxer Buddies.
Yes.
Is that still utilized or in some shape or form, or?
I think, yes.
Yes, Sharon says yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. I mean, that integrated some of our special needs students with basically models, so to speak, and it was a very nice program where some of the students really showed the compassion for some of the others that had some issues, but in basically a very caring way. It was just a very nice program. Substitute teachers, how are we doing with regard, what are we paying our substitute teachers, and how are we doing with regard to cafeterias, having students without substitute teachers? That was one of the problems with regard to parents being very concerned. Can you just tell me about some of the progress and the costs?
Yes. So again, my understanding is that that was an issue before, that because of the lack of teachers or the lack of substitute teachers, that there were students who were in cafeterias. That is not something that has happened this year, where you have hundreds of students in a cafeteria because of a lack of substitutes. We have been more mindful of that, of ensuring that our students are in class. Obviously, there are times that we have, that we do have substitutes, or we do have to be creative with our resources, because, there were many positions that we did go without last year, but we have done our best to ensure that we have quality educators in front of all of our students, and I think that this budget represents us moving more in that direction. As you know, hiring too is difficult at this time, but we've actually gotten a jump on hiring this year, so we have been posting our positions earlier. We have been working with the union in order to make sure things like transfers happen earlier, so that we can post earlier, so that we are fully staffed up for the fall. As far as what our substitute teachers get paid per day, I would have to look that up. Yeah, I'm not positive, but I can get back to you on that number.
Well, that was one of the things that was always a factor with regard to being able to attract substitutes, paying them a reasonable rate for the day. So I'm sure that the school committee remembers those types of, that type of chatter, let's say, from the parents, and I'm sure that you are handling that, now. the schools are a soft spot for me, and I see some of my old colleagues, and you've got a great school committee now in terms of support of you, which is wonderful. The budget controls that you have implemented, obviously, through the collaboration with Mr. Clarkson and the city side, only benefits the city, so that, we have a more streamlined approach. I described it during some of the taxing times to Mr. Clarkson as the school committee, the school budget, I should say, was like an octopus. Money's coming in from different places, that the octopus's arms coming in, and, did we really have a good handle on, what's going or charged to certain accounts in certain areas? So it's nice to hear that there are budget controls in place, and I'm sure the school committee appreciates being able to have more specificity with regard to the budget and seeing, in fact, where these are being spent, dollars are being spent with regard to the different budget centers, being the different schools, the different programs, the different areas that monies are being spent on, and, having appropriate accountability in terms of, charging off to these certain budget centers so people know what is being spent and the monies coming in are being spent on the, allocated items that they were given for. So that's obviously a huge benefit, so it's nice to hear that. How are we doing on transportation in terms of having monies to handle what we need for transportation in terms of, the private vendors, so to speak?
Well, so our goal for next year is we're working on this on a couple different fronts. So we are currently in collective bargaining with our school bus drivers, but also our transportation bid is out. In fact, the bid opening is this Wednesday at 2 p.m. So we do hope that will allow us to have more competitive pricing as well. So, we're doing our best to stay within our budget and our limits. As I mentioned when I came here in March, we did imagine that we were going to require additional funds in order to bridge the transportation gap. And coming in mid-school year, we were able to make some changes. We were able to rebid out some routes for some cost savings, but obviously in the middle of a school year, it's difficult to really do that to scale. So our goal for next year is to be able to do that in a much larger way. And hopefully that will allow us to stay within the non-net school budget that we are receiving today. But for last school year, the fiscal year that we are in, we have been able to utilize our circuit breaker to make up for the additional expenses that transportation was costing.
And have we tightened up some of the open-endedness with regard to some of the costs and the vendors who, didn't really have caps or
Yes.
set rates? I mean, that obviously was a money drain. How are we doing on that?
Yes, so that was one of the cost savings that we were working on. So we rebid out routes in order to get more competitive pricing mid-year this year. But again, and so we did build in those controls. We did actually have some private vendors that we stopped working with because they weren't able to get us a better price. So those controls are now in place so that we will be in a better position for next year.
And then, of course, the decision to go in-house with regard to transportation, we all were under the impression, and the city council supported, with the support of the mayor, the numbers that were provided to everyone, that we would be saving money by bringing it in-house. Obviously, when it first occurred, the transformation, or the transition, I should say, from our private vendor to the city, there was obviously a lot of adjusting that needed to take place, and there was certainly road bumps in the road. How are we doing in terms of organization, efficiency? Do you have the right number of people? Are we streamlining things? Is it more organized? Do you feel more comfortable and confident that the monies, that you have a handle on what this is going to cost, you know, within the budget constraints of, you know, $17 million. You know, a portion of that is obviously, like you said, community schools and crossing guards, et cetera, but a portion of that is, you know, going towards the transportation. How are you guys doing with regard to, you know, streamlining that budget and handling it internally, so to speak?
Well, I would say I feel more confident than I did last year or this year, but I would say it's still an area where I do have concerns and where I do feel like it's in the same way that we've built up this historical budget that I now have a lot more confidence in. We don't really have that with transportation yet. So we have, you know, we've rebid out routes. We've been able to garner some cost savings over time. We are going out to bid. We are working on our collective bargaining agreement. But it is hard to predict. I do believe that we should be able to stay within that amount for non-net for all three of those expenses. But I will say that this is an area where we are spending, or will be expending extra attention just like we did this school year, because it is harder for us to predict since we don't have a full year of the most cost-effective way to do it, the most efficient way to do it. And so I think time will tell, but I do believe that we are in a better position than we were this past year.
The good thing is that you're having negotiations so that you can sort of try to adjust, so to speak, with regard to what the needs are and what the constraints are, the financial constraints. You have to work within the financial constraints that you have. So, so that's obviously, the timing is good. I know I'm like a broken record on this, but in terms of drive or student sharing, drive sharing, any progress or any developments on that with regard to, like I use it as an example, if we have, you know, a couple of students or other communities on the way to a certain out-of-district school, you know, collaborating with, you know, let's say you have kids going over to Hanover for a program over there, you know, Abington, Rockland, or along the way, you know, does anyone call and say, hey, can we ride share with you guys and split the cost or what have you? Is there any of that going on, or is that just...
that is something that superintendents are looking into. That is something that we have been exploring. I will say that the procurement for that is complicated, and the payment streams for that, and so that is one thing that we would need to figure out is how to do that.
It sounds like common sense, right? I mean, you know, if you got 3 kids on the way to the school, you know, a school, whatever it is, the school for whatever disability or whatever program it is, I mean, if there's multiple kids on the way to that location, it seems like common sense. We would want to, okay, let's pick up the student from Brockton to Abington to Rockland to you know, and then they would go into Hanover. Let's split the bill 3 ways or whatever it is. I mean, that to me is just common sense. But of course, in some realms with regard to government, common sense does not apply, but it should apply, and we should all work to make it apply, right? I mean, I've been whining about that, I would say, for a long time. Mr. Rodriguez, I think, is nodding his head. Yeah, I remember hearing you whine about that quite a bit. So I'm just trying to save money for, you know, all more than just Brockton along the way, and that, you know, in the Commonwealth. But it's nice to see these additional positions rather than layoffs. You know, layoffs were a very horrible time for all of us. No one enjoyed going to meetings with regard to layoff talks. So that's certainly beneficial. Again, many of my colleagues have school committee experience, and I'm sure the schools are a soft spot, especially with the gentleman next to me. But thank you for answering my questions, and I look forward to continuing to work with you, and thank you. And to the school committee, it's nice to see that you're making a difference and things are getting better, obviously. So I wish everyone luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Madam Superintendent. Thank you for coming in. This is a great document that you put together with your team. It's very easy to read, and again, as some of my colleagues said earlier, it's light years ahead what we had to deal with last year. You obviously came into this position, the schools were having some really financial problems and also some internal problems. I've watched you here in your tenure. You've really done tremendous amount of work with the financial difficulties of the school department, but also shifted the culture of the school department, the administrative end of it. I think shaped it more to be a little more user-friendly, a little more student-focused, and I wanted to just give you compliments on that. I also want to thank you, your team, Interim Superintendent Boyer and Deputy Superintendent Sy. They've also been here for about a year now, and the difference is really remarkable. I get calls from residents with children in different grades, different schools, and the remarks I get consistently is the schools are just improving dramatically, especially the high school. Your hire of Mr. McCaskill, I think, was something that was just a tremendous credit to you and the school committee. He's done a turnaround up there. I think it is really could be nationally recognized, to be honest with you. What we had here about 12 or 18 months ago is dramatically different, improving each and every day. So I just want to thank all of you, and also the school committee, Dr. Clarkson, and the chairman, the mayor. You came into this was really a tempest you came into, and you were able to see your way through it. You stuck with it. And we truly have a new sheriff over at the school department. I'm very glad that you're here, Superintendent. And this budget, I'll support it. I think it's really, wish we had more money to give you. Unfortunately, we don't. But hopefully development will continue in the city. In the next 2 years, we'll be able to give you some additional money. Again, I just want to thank you again, and also your team for coming in tonight. And wish you continued success. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, to circle back to what my colleague just stated, to Dr. Taliani, I mean, what you've been able to accomplish at Brockton High School, I mean, with the Brockton Public Schools system has been nothing more than impressive. And obviously, you came in a system whereby, you know, the situation was very complex. And, you know, you took the risk. And obviously, you do have a team of people that are working with you. But in terms of conversation that we had in the past, and I think one of the things that you said, your paramount goal is to see every single kid in our school system succeed. And when I heard that from you, this was something that I take deep, given the fact that I come from a family that do have educators. And, you know, for the past couple months, what you've been accomplished at Brockton High School has been nothing more than amazing. And of course, you know, the leadership within your administration has been nothing more than responsive, professional, responsible, and are willing to actually do what they believe is good for all of us. And of course, the city of Brockton is diverse. We always have diversity. Obviously, back then it used to be a different group of diversity, but as we speak, the people that we have in the school, they live here. And I've seen day in and day out your level of commitment, your unwavering dedication to every single student in our school system. And I know I said that to you before, and I'm going to say it again. Your job as the superintendent is the most important job in our city, whereby parents are trusting your judgment and your team, not only to educate their children, but to build that foundation whereby that little boy and that little girl will be able to take a pen or a pencil to define their life. And that's what you've been doing. And I could not be more impressed, given the situation that we are dealing with. And obviously, you don't really hear this a lot, especially from up here. But when I see something good, I always take the time to acknowledge it, because it is important. It is important to acknowledge what we are doing good. And I really hope that the media will take some time to come down here and ask a question in terms of how you've been able to do that. Not just the negative stuff, not just the nonsense, but what you've been able to do in the past couple months. Not just you. I know that you have a team, but like I said last year, you sit on the seat and you will take the hit, and you are not afraid of it. And this year, the sentiment up here is not the same as last year. Last year, you know, the tension was high, rightfully so, because we were dealing with a transportation department that was totally unacceptable. And as we speak, it's not the best, but based on my observation, according to the decision that you've been able to make, that department is heading, in my view, into a good position. And I have to acknowledge the mayor and the school committee for taking bold actions to do what you're supposed to do. And in my view, I don't have any kids, but if I do have a child right now in the private school system, I will take that kid and put them in the Brockton school system. Because only you can convince a parent in the city not to send their kids somewhere else. But the only way we can do that, the only way we can increase that number is by building confidence in terms of what we are teaching them, who is teaching them, and how we are teaching them. I used to be a kid. I don't think I was the best kid. When we are dealing with children, there's a way of dealing with children. And I know some people will assume that everybody has to be perfect. We are dealing with kids. Some of them will misbehave, some of them will challenge you, but that's part of the system. But so far, what I'm saying and what I hope to continue to see is impressive, is unbelievable. And in terms of the chaos that we are dealing with based in Washington, D.C., I have just a question for you. What is the status of your federal funding in terms of grants? And how are you looking at cuts? And I'm pretty positive you will come back to this council and ask for more money. Obviously, my college acknowledged it. We don't have enough money to give you. But I hope that we had the ability to just tell you, here's the money that you need, and take over the entire school system and bring the best of our kids. So what is the status of that?
So I appreciate you asking that question. It is a moving target at this point. We are hearing news almost daily about what could happen, maybe not necessarily certainty about what's going to happen. So for example, we had heard that our Adult Learning Center grant funding might be cut by 20%, so we had to meet in order to figure out how to absorb that cut. Luckily, it has only been cut by 5%, so we have, and I appreciate the efforts of the community schools team for coming up with creative ways to absorb those cuts so that nobody is directly impacted as far as any of our staffing. So that was all within the last 2 weeks. We've also heard potentially about what could happen with our McKinney-Vento funding. So we don't know, for example, exactly what that looks like yet, but this is all to say that we are getting updates regularly, from DESE, from those who are trying to keep an ear out for what's happening on the federal level to determine how our grants could be impacted. So I would say that I don't have any certainty right now on that, but I think you're right that it is going to impact our funding and that it is going to be something we're going to have to adjust for next year. I'm hopeful that maybe it won't. Like the Adult Learning Center, we thought it was going to be 20. It ended up being 5. We were able to contain it. I'm just unsure if that's the way it's going to work out every single time.
Excellent. So I'm going to ask you a favor, okay? Given the fact that our school system, right, is doing so well, I really hope that we push that narrative more. Because I've seen it. I've been to Brockton High School and I've seen some of the stuff that the kids are doing. And I really want to see that on the website, like what we're doing here. Because a lot of people assume, right, that I'm not going to send my child there because of X, Y, and Z. That's not the case. And to justify that, I think some of my colleagues and the council president, myself, Moses, and who else, Jack, we went to the Brockton High School graduation. And obviously it was pouring. But it was one of the most beautiful things that I've seen. The smile, the joy, the excitement that I've seen on these kids' face. You don't know where they're going to be. And some of them are actually going to Harvard University. They're going to Columbia. They're going to multiple places. And these are the stories that we have to tell. These are the stories that we have to push out there. Because if we don't tell our stories, no one will tell our stories. And at the end of the day, I think that we have a solemn obligation to sell Brockton in a positive way. And that's that from me, from the mayor, from you, and from every single one of us. And I believe next year when you come back in front of this council to ask for money, you will have a lot of positive things, or more positive things to say. So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, I will leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Texiera.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Superintendent, to be here. I want to touch, if you can touch base on police, the contract for the police.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the contract on the police that they got?
Yes, we did settle our police contract several months ago. One of the main changes that we made was we did give them parity with the Brockton Police in their salary. They still don't have the same retirement benefits or other benefits that Brockton Police have, but we did at least want to give them some parity when it came to salary. One of the things that we have seen is not only, obviously, I think last year we had 15 positions budgeted, but we only had 9 filled. And obviously, we're a district with 16,000 students almost. And so our goal with this past contract was to keep some of our school police. If you look at the trend in school police over time, with the exception of those that are, the supervisors, we lose our school police within 1 to 2 years to the Brockton Police because they do have a more beneficial package. What we were trying to do is not only recruit so that we can fill our positions, but also retain the police that we have. So that's what we were attempting to do. We were aware that there were some school police that were planning on making the move, and then we would be down to less than the 9. So that was our intention with the police contract, is to hopefully be able to hold on to our school police for longer. I think while it's wonderful for it to be a training ground for Brockton Police, we also want to make sure that we have, highly skilled individuals who know our schools, who've been there for a while, who are invested in our schools. And so we were hoping to be able to create, some package, not the entire thing, but something that would be attractive for them to stay.
Thank you for that. And if you go back on page 79 on your budget book, it's about transportation. On FY25, it was from special ed bus drive, K to 12, you asked for 268 million. This year, you asking proposed 1.35. That's a huge jump.
For the 268 for special ed. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, the reason is because it had not been properly captured in years past.
Oh, it has it. Oh, okay.
Yes. So we're trying to right some of the wrongs that we've been discovering.
Okay. That's it. And with regular day bus drive, it's a jump of almost 3 million from FY25 to proposed FY26. There's a difference just about 3 million. Also on the.
That's the same, right? Yeah, so we were trying to.
Right, yeah, because this was the actual. Yes.
So yes, so if you look at the FY25 actual budget, we based that FY26 requested amount on the actuals. Again, this is definitely an area where we're trying to clean up some of the historical budget. We have found in working on the transportation invoices that not everything was coded exactly the way it should be. It is definitely complicated because we have multiple different ways we are supposed to be coding it, because we do have students who are homeless, we do have students who are getting transportation both in district, out of district, and so there were a lot of areas where we did not have the accurate amounts allotted to start. So this is an area where, that's why if you go back to FY24, you see so many dashes, is we don't even have that historical. We have the bulk amount that we were paying for transportation, but we didn't have a breakdown of what we were paying for what.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Razak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Superintendent, Ms. Boyer. Thank you for your presentation of the budget. I have just a couple of questions. The first one is on page 72 of this budget book. It's the third item down, which speaks on the lease for 440 Belmont Street. I know it's zero right across for the, it's zero funding, but I'm just wondering why it's listed. Are we still using it, or?
So we are, but we have not appropriately procured it. So this is one of the areas where we, as I'm sure you know, we hadn't done appropriate procurements for a while, and we needed to go out for bid for several different things, including our bus depot. So we did accomplish that, and so now we are there appropriately at the fairgrounds. But this is one that we have not completed, and it is, we have been looking into, the reason we didn't account for it for next year is because we are planning to potentially relocate the re-engagement
Okay.
center into a different space, so that we do not have to pay that rental cost.
Okay, because it says it's for the Promise School classroom, which brings me to actually my main question is, I couldn't find anything in here on the May Center that we acquired. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right place, but the May building down on the south side on Summer Street, is it being used for?
Oh, so what is that? Would that be?
The Brockton Therapeutic Day School, yeah. So we own that. Yeah.
Yes, so if we.
I know we paid a lot of money for it, so I hope it's
Right.
not lost.
So, no, we still have that building.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. So it wouldn't be in this budget since we don't have to purchase it. We already own it.
But what about programs in it? What program is it housing? What are we doing with it? Because it was, we paid a lot for it, as I just mentioned, and it did come up in our accounts committee last week. And I'm just hoping it's being used. We pay a lot of rental fees, as we all see here, and I hope we're using this building that we paid a lot of money for.
Yes, so if you look in that same book at the Brockton Therapeutic Day School.
Which page, and I saw it.
Page 150.
Okay.
So it'll tell you more about that school. It'll give you the breakdown of the student demographics, of the teacher-to-student ratio. So this was the school we were referring to when we were mentioning trying to bring students back into the district. So this is to serve that particular population. So it's a day school for students who require therapeutic services.
How many, and I was just pointed out to me, I didn't realize that that's what it was named, but how many students are we talking about? What are the numbers?
Students. It should be right here. 30.
30 students? For this multi-million-dollar building? Wow.
Yes, for now. I mean, our hope is to, again, bring more students back in-house, but yes, for now it has 30
Okay, and
students.
then you just mentioned the bus depot. So I know we're parking them up at the fairgrounds, but this has become a permanent thing? Is it, or we're just extending whatever lease we had with them?
So we actually just started a lease, so we have a 3-year.
Another 3-year lease. And so years ago, when the conversation came up about us having our own buses and possibly housing our own buses, I had mentioned at the time to the previous superintendent and school CFO that the city owns a lot of property, and right next to the high school, there's a lot of property. I know a lot of communities that are, much more, that have their own buses, but they house their buses on their own property. So I was hoping we would do the same, and then obviously we got hit with a lot of, issues, but I was hoping maybe you could have your team take a look at that again. I know there's land, I believe it's owned by the Bertarelli brothers, right next to the high school, that could possibly be developed. I know I was down in, I think it was Situate or Cohasset a few years ago, and they park their own buses on their own school grounds. So I think if we can be organized and manage that, maybe save some money. I mean, city our size, we should be able to, to take care of our own. So that's just something, some food for thought. But
No,
thank you.
absolutely. I think that, and thank you, I didn't know about that particular parcel of land. I do know that that is a conversation that will be had because we know that the fairgrounds is not going to be available. And so we recognize that we need an alternative plan.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. Counselor Lally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. I wanted to express my appreciation, looking sort of at last year and this year, and especially the year before. It's a heck of a difference. I wanted to just, remark publicly and express my appreciation about the superintendent's willingness to communicate prior to this meeting, accessibility, and the sheer amount in terms of volume of what we received is a lot different. It's very informative. I know a lot of my colleagues have asked a lot of the questions that I had marked out, but I do appreciate the teamwork that the school department has really come around to, and I think the city and the schools are working in a lot more, together a lot more, and I think that's yielding some better results. One of the things we discussed was, basically, you came into somebody else's budget. Now you've got a chance to put together a budget, but it's not all yours, and we're moving towards next fiscal year's budget. So basically you believe that next year we're gonna look stronger.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, always good to hear. Now, I know that this is an ongoing thing, but the buses that Councilor Azak was just discussing, there is an audit underway for how to handle that, or is that finished? What's the update on that?
Yes, the audit was complete.
The audit's complete. So what did the audit recommend?
So the audit recommended several different things as far as how many, mechanics we should have on staff, what our structure should look like at the office, so some additional efficiencies. There was a lot of information regarding efficiencies that we can build in for routing, routing software, things like that. So those are recommendations that we are in the process of implementing.
Oh, good, yeah. No, I know routing was a big thing last year. We talked a bit about, half empty buses, half full if you're optimistic. But they definitely could have been enhanced. So I'm happy to see that's going on and that we're working towards a smoother, more efficient department. That was a big problem. Councilor Texera mentioned the school police contract. What contracts are up now? What's being negotiated? Obviously, I'm not going to ask for any details about negotiation, but what's in front of the department now?
So we have our paraprofessionals, we have our teachers, we have our administrative assistants and techs, which are in one contract, our bus drivers, and custodians. Thank you, our custodians.
Okay. So that is, I know that you
So
guys
5.
are gonna, yeah, it's a lot going at once. Hopefully those contracts can be examined pretty thoroughly and we can come up pretty fair on it. The last question I have is about leases. Are we looking at anything new? Any new or upcoming leases?
No.
Okay, just for the record, I know that leases have, that's been something we've been jumping all over in the past. Anything would have to come through the council, so I just wanted to make sure of that. But I do appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the work that you guys have done with the city, with CFO Clarkson, with the mayor, with everybody, and the state to get us to a better situation, and I look forward to continuing down that path. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Madam Superintendent. This year's budget book is light years ahead of last year's. I don't even think there can be a comparison. and I want to thank you for all of the information that you provided to me in advance of this meeting. I found it much more beneficial to reach out to you because you can't be expected to bring every document and every shred of information with you. I don't think it would be hyperbole to say that it's extraordinary how the relationship has improved between the schools and municipal government, and with some counselors, and with your staff. I think that's a testament to you. I'd like to think part of it is on us because we kind of factor out some of the extraneous nonsense that sometimes goes on in a political environment, and we focus on the core mission of the school department, which is educate all of our children, support our staff, create a learning environment so that we can get every child at least up to the maximum level of their ability. Not all of them will go on to an Ivy League school, but whatever that level of ability is, I always feel as though if we can get them to that maximum level, then we've really achieved great things. I think there's a greater understanding of the relationship between the municipal restrictions or requirements or laws and regulations that we must follow that also are intertwined with the schools. I think that was missing. Basically, long before you got here, the schools drifted apart, and they kind of became their own entity. And so now I think by bringing them back together with your leadership, we're going to really be able to do great things. I think all of the counselors will have a greater understanding of public education. Special ed is always going to change. Children move into the district. They move out of the district. That can have tremendous financial obligations. This wasn't one of the questions I asked you, but some people, I think they hear the term special ed student. I don't think they realize there's a core evaluation. Someone doesn't just say, oh, well, that child is going to be special ed. I mean, there is an entire process that's followed so that you identify precisely what that student needs in terms of services, and then we try to locate them in the program where those services will be met. If it can be done in-house, that's great. If it can't, obviously it's got to be out of the system. So I don't think the public realizes the term special ed has such ramifications for staff and financial obligations. But because you answered all my questions, submitted information, I sincerely want to tell you that I started off as a skeptic. And I'm being converted. I have no doubt that with this budget and the next year and the ability to generate data on transportation, student services, spending, we're going to be in a very strong position, as Councilor Lally might have referred to earlier. And, it's forgetting I'm a counselor, I'm a grandparent, I've got grandchildren in the system. That's what counts to me, because the system is everything to them. That's their whole future. And so thank you, and I will always work with you. I'll help you with issues, even if they're sticky issues. If the documentation is there and the need is there and the schools need some assistance from the City Council, I will publicly tell you I'll be there with you. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Nicastro.
Thank you. Good evening. The overspending in the school budget 2 years ago represented a crisis, a huge crisis, that opened a lot of eyes. And I appreciate all of your efforts, Kim Tsai's efforts, and the efforts of Trish, many others, to address it, to put systems in place and help us get it organized. It was very, very important because you're the largest item on our budget on an annual basis, and we have to get it right. And I know from speaking with you, you know that, and I thank you in advance of tonight's meeting. You responded to my questions that I emailed to you, so thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rodriguez.
Am I the last one?
I believe so.
But not the least.
Well, Madam Superintendent, thank you for the visit the other day. It was greatly appreciated. Mine is not much to do with the budget itself, but just a quick question. I know you're not required by law to report race and ethnicity other than white, black, Hispanic, Asian. I think it's just those 4 categories. But, in this city, there's a lot more diversity that takes place within the school system. Does the school system keep some sort of a record or breakdown on the ethnicities of our students within this system?
So you're correct that the categories are more broad than maybe is best for our ability to track over time. But some of the ways that we do look at our changing demographics are the languages spoken at home, the first language. So I know that doesn't answer your question specifically about race. We do have the race indicators that we rely on, but there are ways, if I'm understanding your question correctly, there are ways for us to look at how our population has changed over time that are slightly different indicators.
Because just utilizing the high school, if you look at the statistics from the high school, it looks like there's 0 Haitians, 0 Cape Verdeans, probably 0 of some of the other Caribbean folks that we have in the system, because it says that the system is 64% African American.
Right.
It's not even black, African American, which is technically is an ethnic group, so it wipes out all the other ethnic groups in the community. So I figured it might be something that it would be worthwhile to help us as we move forward in discussing these complex issues within our communities, to dig a little deeper into that, to figure that stuff out.
Right.
But as my last point, I want to give out a shout out to Kevin McCaskill. I actually had the honor of standing next to him at graduation on Saturday. We had a ball, by the way, like we normally do, especially with the nursing students coming up as we're getting a little older, pointing as to who's going to be taking care of us, that kind of stuff. But I couldn't tell you the number of students, because he was next to me, that came in and gave him a hug, male and female, thanking him for all the work that he has done with them. And that to me was significant because it made a big difference. And honestly, I couldn't tell you the number of students that actually stopped and said, you made it possible for me to graduate. Thank you for all that you did and stuff. And it was kind of touching, to sit here and listen to some of these, bulky football players types, swinging around and telling this guy how much of an influence, he was or he has been in their lives. And it touched me in the sense. So I wanted to make sure that I did it here publicly for the folks that are watching us at home and in front of all of you, to show our gratitude for the work that he actually has done at that high school, especially when we all know where that high school was about a year and a half or so ago. And to see the transformation and some of the work that's been done, it speaks volumes for everybody involved and all the staff that actually have supported that, but most significantly for him, because it was very visible for everybody that came through the line and saying hello to both of us, to be honest with you. So I wanted to say that. I didn't tell him that I was going to do this, but I wanted to do that because I think it's important for us. We criticize at times when it warrants criticism, but at times when it requires praise, we should praise him as well. So thank you for all that you do. And I've already said about the books and stuff. I'm not going to repeat that again. So thank you, Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Rodriguez. Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Madam Superintendent. Again, thank you for your preparation tonight and, spending the time, giving all of us an opportunity to meet with you, speak with you. This is, as I said, it's the largest part of our budget, and to be able to ask questions and get real-time feedback on it is really appreciative. And so I know we were talking about how well the school and the city are working together, but one issue that kind of is still, there's some back and forth and maybe some contentiousness is regarding our Schedule 19. And one of the issues, one of the categories in our Schedule 19 is our municipal-related costs. And this year, it looks like there's been, since fiscal year 24, 26.77% increase. And so that's a notable increase in that that cost to the schools. And so I know during our discussions, we discussed about what type of municipal-related costs are there that the city is, looking to charge back to the schools, and we discussed what some of those are. And then, there's always, is that fair? Is it not fair? Is it properly documented? Is it not? And so I know there's, some back and forth there. But one of the alternatives that we discussed was just straight formulaic calculation. And maybe if we move towards that formulaic calculation, it would remove maybe some of the, I'm not going to say contentiousness because I think that's overstating it, but some of the back and forth and all of the man hours in a way that goes into us kind of calculating what those chargebacks are, and then all the documentation that may come with it, and then the discussion around it, well, whether that's suitable, not suitable. And so I know in our discussions, we talked about potentially, I asked if we had a calculation as to what it would be under that straight formulaic cost. So were you able to gather that, and how does that compare to the current costs?
So we actually started to do that analysis. Now, there are some costs that are going to be direct no matter what, like the pension costs, the health insurance, things like that. But to your question about those that could be done by a percentage, we did start to pull those costs to be able to share. I did not have the opportunity yet, though, to make sure those numbers jive with Dr. Clarkson. Like, I wanted to make sure that we weren't missing something. So I just haven't gotten the opportunity to have the entirety of that conversation to get you that data. But I do want you to know we did start to pull it. We did start to do that analysis and start having those discussions. I just haven't gotten a chance to talk with the city about if our numbers look right or if we're missing something. But I will get that to you.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, if you could share it once you do have it, because I'm just interested in how it compares to what the current costs are. And if there's, some agreement between the city and the school that maybe we should move towards that more formulaic calculation, that may cut down on some of the back and forths that's involved in these negotiations. So again, thank you so much for your time, your leadership. It's always much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President.
Back. So, councilors, that's our Brockton Public School presentation. I know, Dr. Tiliani, you've always made yourself available to come before the City Council to discuss, all the different, budgetary and policy issues happening in the school. So I think we'll try to make it a common occurrence, maybe quarterly, to have you come before us in a resolve so that this discussion can continue throughout the year. So again, thank you for being here and good evening.
Thank you. Can I say one final thing?
Yeah, please go right ahead.
So I just want to thank all of you so much for your time today, not only today, but also previously. I appreciate all of you being so willing to engage with me ahead of this meeting, and also just being so welcoming to me overall. I also do just want to thank the school committee, those members who are here tonight and those who couldn't be here, for, giving me this opportunity, and also for supporting me every single day. And then finally, to the point that was made about the fact that there was some tension last year, and my willingness to, come in and take on that challenge and take on that risk. There's certainly something to be said for those who are willing to kind of come in and take on the challenge and risk, like some of us newer ones. But I do also just want to pay a huge amount of thanks to those who were here last year during those tense times and have stuck it out all throughout. I want to thank Deputy Superintendent Sharon Walder, who's here today, who started her student teaching here back when and is now our Deputy Superintendent, and is somebody who has just believed in Brockton all throughout and has stuck around. I want to thank Dr. Kathy Moran, Dr. Spalding, Dr. LaBilwa, Dr. Connors, Ken Thompson, who's here. I appreciate so much the accolades, but this budget that's before you would not have been made possible if it hadn't been for all of those who have dedicated their lives and careers to Brockton, and I just want to recognize them for that.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, councilors, we're about 2.5 hours in, and we're 3 budget items in. So we have about 9 more to go. Hopefully we can move it along. But great questions all. Thank you.
Item 4, Veteran Services, Kelly Young, Director. Item 5.
Director Young, good evening.
Good evening, Council President, City Council. We have these great budget books this year. I just want to make sure I'm on the right page before I start talking. So this year's Veteran Services and Veterans Council budgets are, I hope they stay this way, but uneventful. It's almost exactly last year's budget. We sadly are seeing a lot of veterans being priced out of Brockton and this housing crisis that we have going on. So while we're trying to recruit and advertise and do outreach events, we are pretty level in the services we've provided. So we really haven't asked for much more than we typically ask in other years.
Great. Thank you. Councilors, any questions?
I just want to know, how was deployment?
Okay. So on a personal note, I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which I think we should all just, if you don't know it, you should be really thankful for your quality of life in Massachusetts. It was tough between the tornado warnings, and if you think the water stuff in Brockton's crazy, the boil water orders, we didn't have a flushing toilet in the hotel for over a week. I was at Fort Sill for 5 weeks at a school for airspace management, and I deployed to Djibouti. I'll be leaving in July.
Wow.
So I'll let you know when I get back how the deployment is. I'll send you a postcard.
Service. I don't think a lot of people may still know that you're in there. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor. If there's no further questions, then we'll move on to the next budget item.
Item 5 is Veterans Council.
All right.
Director Young.
So the Veterans Council is, those are all the public-facing events we do. That's the Memorial Day Parade, the Purple Heart Luncheon, Veterans Day, all of the coffee hours, the face-to-face with veterans. Those are all that's what that goes towards.
Great events all. Really enjoy attending them. Councilors, any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Director. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. I wish you an early night.
Too late.
Number 6.
Item 6, Assessors, John O'Donnell, Chairman, Board of Assessors.
Nice job.
Mr. Chairman, good evening.
Good evening, Chairman and all councilors. Firstly, I'd like to thank my entire staff, excuse me, especially the clerks who deal with the public on a daily basis, and they have a very difficult job and they never complain. As far as my budget, the personal service portion of Assessor's budget is level funded. We still have a vacant, unfunded administrative assistant position available. The increase in the revaluation line, item of $150,000, and the consultant line, item of $80,000 was necessary as the city needs to complete the 5-year certification review, which is required by the Bureau of Local Assessment. The Bureau of Local Assessment certification program consists of, but not limited to, a data quality review, a statistical ratio studies review, and evaluation review to ensure that proper appraisal methodology was utilized while uniformly and equitably applied to all properties. The certification program began in February of 2025 and will be completed in November of 2025. I can now answer any questions you may have.
Councilor Texiera.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On purchase and service, 517%.
We have to complete the 5-year certification program, so we have 2 RFPs that we put out. The one for real property was $215,300, and the one for personal property was $129,000. So that's the increase. So next year, my budget will go back down to normal for 4 years. I have 1 year out of every 5 years that it's increased.
All right, thank you for the
You're welcome.
clarification. Thank you, that was it.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close that line item. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair. Appreciate your time tonight.
Item 7, Tax Collector's Treasurer, Martin Brophy, Treasurer Collector.
Good evening, Mr. Brophy.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, councilors. My budget is fairly level funded. Slight increase in Medicare tax and a slight increase in personal services. Otherwise, there's some cutbacks in purchase of services. Some of the reductions were based on some of the changes that were done in our tax-taking procedures. Advertisement, I'm able to cut back because no residential properties need to be advertised in the paper anymore. So that's a little change that the legislature has taken. As the mayor said, we had a successful auction. Some of the rules on foreclosed properties have also changed. We now when we foreclose on a property, we have to hire a real estate agent to try and market the property. And then after a year, if it does not sell, then we can hold an auction. So I'm in the process of trying to put together an RFP on trying to get a real estate agent for that. As far as collections, we're currently at, as of today, in the collector's office, over $240 million, with a few weeks to go. So that's about $7 million more than we were at this point last year. And again, I want to thank my staff. As you know, we send out over 300,000 bills a year. It's gotten much smoother at collecting with the online payments, but it's still a lot of money coming in the door, and my staff is very diligent in ensuring that every dollar is properly accounted for. And then in my treasurer's office, every payroll and AP is pushed out the door. And again, everything has been successful this year. So,
great.
With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brophy. Councilors, any questions? Seeing none, we'll close that department. We'll move on to number 8.
Item 8, Treasurer's Debt Service and POB, Martin Brophy, Treasurer Collector.
Good evening again, Mr. Brophy.
Good evening. Actually, just recently, we had a successful bond sale for a little over $2 million. The rate actually came in under 4%, which in this day and age is pretty good. And we also had a temporary borrowing for the public safety and two-way traffic for $22 million, and again, came in under, that was just under 5% at 4.9%. And again, we worked hard, myself, Dr. Clarkson, the auditor's office, on ensuring that our ratings remain stable. It was a little dicey there for a bit, but you know, we're back in the market.
Great. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Farwell.
Just a question relating to debt, Mr. Brophy. According to the Standard & Poor's letter, where they changed our rating from negative to stable, we have $523.6 million in debt outstanding now. That would include all of the water and sewer debt.
It does, yes, yes.
Okay. And then
it would include the pension obligation bond as well.
All right, and then they also mentioned that we have a net pension liability of $109.6 million. And, you know, that changes every time we change pay rates because people retire at a higher rate of pay, and that contributes to the pension benefits that are owed. Is that number approximately still correct, about $109 million? Or?
I'll defer to Dr. Clarkson on that one.
If we could just My question is more related to, let's be cautious with what we do in the future, because 523 million plus 109 million for, the pension debt, I just want to make sure that we're super analytical and cautious as we proceed, that's all.
Well, and again, I think the length that some of this borrowing goes out to is possibly 2057 on like the public safety building. I mean, that's a 30-year loan. So, I mean, it's not all coming due, in the next 5 years. It's, some will drop off, and especially sewer specialties, because we did over $100 million in sewer treatment plant upgrades, and some of that's starting to come down. We're paying off some of those loans.
And the future needs of the school system is what always enters my mind when I think about outstanding debt. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll wrap up that department. Thank you, Mr. Brophy. Appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Item 9, Information Technology, Edward Maderos, Director.
Dr. Maderos, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, councilors, and all those people viewing and listening from outside of City Hall. It's an honor to be here again to answer questions about the ITC budget, and I look forward to everyone's questions. If I could just start with a little overview, the budget definitely contains some increases. I think most of you are aware we're moving to a new public safety facility. We have some costs for training, and there were some other things that last year that were removed as cost-cutting measures, and we have to get those back. Some of the improvements to our munis system that our good support here from our finance department helped us get done with some funding speak to adding 2 additional modules, and they're going to require some people to be trained. We didn't train last year as well for any of the office products. So we definitely need to go down that road, and of course the IT staff needs to be done as well. In personal services, we did get the okay to hire a network administrator. We've been running short one of those this past year. Again, last year's budget, or the current one we're in, another cost-cutting measure. Someone left the team, and it was felt it would be better to leave it unfunded and just absorb the tasks within. That was my role before I moved up. So a lot of those duties fell on my part of the office space, and I spread it out to whoever else could handle those other things. But it looks like things are on the up and up, and I would really like to get that one filled. We have to understand is when people retire or when they leave service from the city, we do maintain their records for email and some of the other documents, so that those
of that transition, we do believe it will produce long-term benefits. And because Munis is used by both the city and the schools will ultimately share in that increase. That's not
supported, and the governor signed a health commissioner, where we're going to be changing the standards of the Board of Health here in the city of Brockton. The commissioner will be here. Board of Health will be under that person. Just wanted to give you a status update. We've narrowed it down to 2 finalists. I met with those 2 individuals last week. I told them that they would get an answer from me this Friday because I knew budget would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the national holiday of Juneteenth is going to be on Thursday. So we will have someone in place in the near future, just to give a status update. Thank you.
Doctor, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, councilors, and I am pleased to be here with you today to go over budget FY26. But first, let me say thank you for all the support that you have given over the years. We continue to do the best we can with the resources that we have. Budget is slightly over what it was in 2025, but there are things that we do not control. It's very meager, but there are a couple of lines, for instance, having to do with longevity and elected appointments. So those are not under my control. So basically, as you may see, it reflects just across the board budget. One line I would say that I may come back to you later is the overtime, because overtime, we have two instances where it applied. When the animal control inspector or the animal inspector is called to go out, and then when we have the nurses go over time to work with patients that require, they have infectious disease that the nurses follow up. And so, therefore, those are circumstances beyond our control, as well as when DPH has certain outbreak infections here and there. It doesn't matter what day of the week, then somebody has to stand up, and that's where this overtime $3,000 may not suffice, because I'm afraid that it will not. So I'll take questions if you have any for me.
Mr. Chairman, before we take questions, if I might add just one thing, call your attention to page 169, because this is another enhancement that we've made to this budget which is an improvement over last year, thanks to our budget director, Elvira Lopes. We have included in your budget books employees who are grant funded, not by the general fund, but just as an additional measure of transparency, so you and the public see we do have several positions citywide that are funded through grants, and so we thought it was important to include them as well.
Thank you, Dr. Clarkson.
Welcome, Dr. Montessori.
Any questions, councilors? Councilor Davenport?
Yeah, Dr. Monizi, it's good to see you. Really quick, in regard to COVID, are we still having an outbreak in the city? I know this is just a budget time. I just want to know.
Great question. Basically, COVID doesn't go away. COVID is still with us.
Okay.
What we don't know is the number of people who get COVID at home and don't go to the medical facility. So occasionally we get cases from DPH, because those cases go to the hospital or a medical facility. They get tested, and the result is recorded in MAVEN, which is the Massachusetts virtual epidemiological network. And so, therefore, we continue to vaccinate whenever people come to vaccinate. And in fact, if I may add, coming FY2026, we will have a long-term immunization project. And let me say thank you to this council for providing, for passing the revolving account for us, because we're going to be doing vaccination, not just for COVID or flu, but for all the vaccines that people can take. And so, therefore, that will include COVID moving forward.
Thank you. I just wanna thank you for your unwavering commitment and dedication to that cause, because obviously, the health of the city is an obligation, if not paramount, to all of us. And I think that your department has been doing a wonderful job in terms of informing the residents, educating people in terms of the action that they can take to prevent certain, diseases, infectious diseases from going on. So I just want to thank you for your leadership, and of course your staff for a job well done. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else? Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Next will be library.
Department 11, Library, Paul Engel, Director. Mr. Engel is out of town, and his assistant, Kevin Nascimento, is with us tonight.
Evening, how are you?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before I begin, I would like to recognize the Jorge Vega. He's the chair of the Board of Library Trustees. We have a lot of support here in the House. Jonathan Strout, he's the head of our Adult Services Department. Vice Chair Jocelyn Meek of the Board of Library Trustees, and also Lisa O'Donnell as well. Melise Vega, she's the ELL coordinator at the libraries. Council President Thompson, members of the City Council, and members of the public, good evening. My name is Kevin Nascimento. I am the Assistant Director of the Brockton Public Library. Library Director Paul Engel is currently out of town. He couldn't be here today, but I am honored to speak on his behalf this evening in support of the Brockton Library. The library continues to be a cornerstone of civic life in our city. This budget, the budget before you, reflects our deep commitment to providing exceptional, equitable service to all Brockton residents. Serving a diverse city, I'm not going to go through all our the demographic makeup of the city. I'm sure as elected officials you know, but I want to point out that 32% of residents here are foreign-born. I am one of them. Nearly half speak a language other than English at home. I'm in that included in that statistic. Our services are designed to meet the needs of this richly diverse population through ESL tutoring, youth programming, bridging gaps in digital access and literacy. We focus our efforts on ways to erode socioeconomic barriers to education, making available the tools and resources that drive positive social mobility, and by providing a safe and welcoming space for all to simply learn and grow. Strategic partnerships and programs. We proudly collaborate with community partners that help us extend our reach and deepen our impact. Working with partners such as Brockton Public Schools, Manomet Conservation Sciences, Coordinated Family and Community Engagement of Brockton, Massachusetts Cultural Council, Brockton Cultural Council, and others, we ensure our kids have the right support for a bright future in Brockton and beyond. Expanding access to vital legal information via partnerships with Plymouth County Courts and the Brockton Law Library. Brockton Symphony Orchestra, we offer free public concerts and music education. Father Bills and Mainspring, supporting individuals experiencing homelessness and by assisting them in connecting them with community resources. Mass Health Connector, helping residents understand and enroll in health coverage. We provide a space for Mass Health to come in and meet people, meet the community, and help them obtain health insurance. Our mobile planetarium, part of our Makerspace program, is a unique science and cultural resource that has traveled to over 30 towns statewide, showcasing Brockton's commitment to educational outreach to thousands of kids, teens, and adults. Why your support matters. Your continued support ensures that these vital services remain available to all Brockton residents. A level-funded budget will enable us to sustain core library services, maintain partnerships and programs, remain adaptable to emerging community needs. Thank you for your time. I'd like to open the floor to any questions you may have.
Thank you. Councilor Davenport.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So obviously, you know, Paul is not here, but I believe I see Jocelyn. I don't have my glasses on, and Marlis and some of you in the audience. I don't know if you were here, but, you know, I acknowledge the fact that the mayor, you know, I was very impressed by what he did in collaboration with the CFO increase the library budget. And as you know, this is a place that I take dearly to my heart. So I just want to say it again, man, you know, just keep up the good work over there. And obviously the population that we are serving, you know, truly need that space, especially the West Branch, the Central Branch, the East Branch. And I think this is one of the best resources that we have in the city. And I could not be more happy, you know, seeing that without having any conversation with the mayor this year. There was more money into the budget, so this was very impressive. So continue doing your job, continue doing what you're supposed to do. And I think as long as that I'm in the city and I'm in the seat, I will always stand up and fight for the library. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Farwell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I am sorry to probably be the one to ruin the night with what some will think is negativity, but several weeks ago, I received communication from parents who had gone down to the library because of a student art exhibit. One of the pictures that was sent to me was pills left behind in a bathroom. Another picture that was sent to me, and I'm going to ask you to confirm if this is true, that in a bathroom or somewhere in the library, we have a SHAPS receptacle where people can deposit used hypodermic needles. Is that true?
Yes.
It is true.
There is a trash.
Yeah, where someone would, okay.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could explain to me why we would want to put a SHAPS receptacle inside a public library that's used by families and children.
Well, it could be for somebody that's using the facility the right way, legitimately. They could, if they're, for any health reason, say they need to, if they are diabetic, or they might use it and dispense whatever item they use to take care of themselves and put it in there and put the syringe in there. I'm aware of, as you all aware, we are dealing with a serious situation in Brockton when it comes to the transient population, and the library is right by the park. I think it is called Salisbury Park, Salisbury Park. And so a lot of the activity, the illicit activity, it spills into the library premises, and it is something we are trying to mitigate. We have boosted our security. We have increased our cameras in the library. We have about 50 security cameras. And yes, Councilor, there are negative connotations associated with that, yes. But it is something that we are trying to address head on. And I'm sure if Paul, the director, was here, would tell you the same thing. There are things outside our that we can't control.
But sir, this is inside.
Yes.
And I understand from the person who reported this to me, as a matter of fact, I may file a resolve because she's willing to come in and talk to us.
Yeah.
The smell of urine was present. Approximately 6 or 7 years ago, I think I shared the email with the mayor, I sent a message to Mr. Engel, and I gave him the Boston Public Library guidelines they had for people who might be homeless coming into the library, because it's not a day habilitation center. It's an area where people should come in and use the services. And the answer I got back was, well, we really don't want to discriminate against people and have to decide, who's homeless and who isn't. And I still have the email. So my only point in raising this is I support the library budget.
Thank you.
In my opinion, and I'm only one person, the library trustees and Mr. Engel and staff had better get together and come up with a remediation plan. If it involves a small additional appropriation. I hope you'll actually put it into the mayor and let him know about it, because if we don't do that, you will kill the incentive for people to take their families down and enjoy that magnificent building and the programs and services that are offered there. But when I got these pictures and I got the description of what went on down there from someone I know who was down there, as I say, with her children, it wasn't a pleasant experience. So I'll just leave it at that. And Mr. Mayor, I think you stepped in and met with Mr. Engel about it.
Thank you, Kevin. You don't mind if I'm this close to you.
No problem.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I concur with you. I will tell you that, we're trying to deal with both the interior and exterior activities. Exterior on White Ave, police chief has done more directed patrols. Mr. Engel asked me if I could cut some of the greenery that were blocking some people on Finnegan Park. So DPW went there and severed some things, opened it up much more. We have some more LED lights that have been installed outside. But after you had reached out to me about the Sharps container, I reached out to Social Services Director Jasmine Bratcher. She said that it's one bathroom and it's been there for a very, very long time. But I will meet with Paul and Jorge and Jocelyn and Lisa and Kevin. And if we need to do appropriation, I'll file it right after July 1.
And Mr. Mayor, I do understand people can be a diabetic and they have to use a hypodermic syringe, but, and maybe I'm old-fashioned, but, a Sharps container in a public library, it's just, I just don't think that's conducive to what we want our library to be known as.
No, I concur with you, Council. And the other thing is about the smell of urine. I will work with both Bill Forty and Jim Pluff tomorrow because the custodians fall under their venue. We have one dedicated custodian that does the Kennedy Library, the main library downtown, and also east and west, but we'll make this a priority.
All right, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
For your help. And I thank you, Mr. Nascimento.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Councilor Castro.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Nascimento. Thank you for being here. And you probably saw I wrote to Mr. Engel.
Yes.
And he did respond very promptly to my questions. And one of them, he was going to defer to Mr. Clarkson, because on page 334, it does set out, as Mr. Clarkson mentioned earlier, that we have some state aid-funded salaries, which I haven't seen before. Why do we have state aid-funded salaries in our libraries?
So if you look at the cherry sheet for the city of Brockton or for any municipality, they provide what we used to call lottery aid and is now called unrestricted general government aid. And every city and town gets that, but on top of that, the Commonwealth separately provides aid to public libraries. And so over the last few years, we've worked and actually changed our approach to try to find the best way to represent that state aid. In this current year's budget, actually, if you look at the budget book, you'll see a listing of the state aid for the library under the general revenue. And then all of the expenses are listed together. In working with the Department of Revenue, they made some suggestions about representing that differently. So we're trying this approach. We're still evolving. We actually had a meeting with Paul and with Mr. Vega from the Library Trustees and the mayor last week, and Paul and Juan Gonzalez, our interim auditor, are working together to maybe even improve it some more. So we listed those salaries separately to try to be transparent about the use of the state aid. That may evolve, and we may come back to you at some point and ask to change it. So Juan is working with auditors from across the state to try to find best practices. So it's simply a different way to represent money that's always been part of providing library services, and we're just trying to find the best way to represent it to you and the public.
Okay. And I think a library system is particularly in need of people to service others. And so it seems appropriate to have these several employees made possible by state funding. The other question I had was, on page 340, what we're spending or going to spend or hope to spend on books and periodicals is reduced by almost $90,000. But it's a library, so why is that?
So, same answer to a different question. If you look below that, there's 99,000 if on the same page on 340. So although the number from FY25 to 26 under the general fund is reduced, we represent 99,000 in spending for books and periodicals under the state aid. So actually, the total amount that's proposed to be spent is increased.
Overall?
Overall.
Okay. Okay, and I didn't realize that that's what that was. And finally, Paul sent me circulation information, and I see that through 2024, circulation increases every year. Yeah,
Yes.
which is wonderful and as it should be, but it will be cut into by the issues in the main branch. The odor issues and people feeling uncomfortable bringing their young children there. And so tell us what we can do to help you, because we want that beautiful building to succeed.
Yes, Councilor, I echo that. Yes, we definitely could use more help in terms of the custodians. Currently we are sharing. We have one custodian that comes in the morning and then one that comes in the afternoon. So if we could increase the custodian presence there, I think that could really help with taking care of some of these issues. And also, as the mayor said, we've increased police presence at the library, so that we have something in the budget here to account for that, to cover that. So I'm hoping that with these measures in place, and then with a little bit more help, we will be able to deal with these type of issues.
We're not able to increase budgets as part of these
I understand
hearings.
that, yes. You can only approve.
But I'm kind of getting known for my naggy emails. So tomorrow morning, more naggy emails will go out.
I appreciate
just to
that.
address that, because if you need more custodians so that people feel safe because it's picked up, that's a very good effort. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor De Castro. Anyone else? Quick second round. Councilor Davenport, I know.
Mayor, if you don't mind, really quick question for you, right? I mean, I know that the library, given the subject that we are debating, I know that the library does not have a custodian belongs to it. Is there any way, I mean, given the foot traffic that we see over there, I mean, it's a busy place, I'm going to be honest with you because I've seen it. Is there any way that we can actually have somebody solely dedicated to that? At least he or she will be responsible, because the amount of foot traffic that I've witnessed there, it's crazy. And I'm assuming in regard to what my colleague stated, maybe that might be able to, to help out in terms of if somebody goes in there and do something and that person is on site and hopefully cleaning it. I'm just saying it to you. I mean, it's up to you to determine, whether or not you can do it. But I think it would be something, at least that we may not be able to do it for every. It can be on a temporary basis, at least to try it out and see whether or not that will, somewhat elevate, some of the stuff that we are dealing with. Because, I know it's tough, but I think that, it wouldn't be a bad idea to actually have somebody there, maybe for a couple months, and see how it works, and take it from there. I'm just
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. Anthony Cascagian is assigned there as a custodian. Dan tends to go in there in the evenings. Maria is here in the afternoon. Brian Matter is here at City Hall. Hugo, Mateo, they tend to go to the War Memorial and the COA in Shaw Center, because Shaw Center still is the annex. But let me talk to Mr. Pliff tomorrow and see what I can advocate for that. I concur with you on that. Let me see what we can do.
Because I think, as we speak, I mean, as you already know, this place is one of the busiest places in the city. I mean, City Hall is busy, but I'm assuming, the amount of foot traffic that I've witnessed there myself, and just give it a shot. I mean, who knows? But I trust your judgment, and I think that, my colleague, Council Farrell would appreciate it if we know that, maybe like for a couple months, we have somebody, especially during the summertime, it's going to be pretty.
Yeah, you know what, you hit it on the head there, because as Paul said to us at the department head meeting the other day, there's a lot of summer scheduled events at the main library, east and west as well, but the Kennedy main library. Let me do this. Let me talk to them tomorrow, both Bill Forty and Jim Plouffe. You'll have an answer tomorrow afternoon, all the councils will.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. All right. Quickly, Councilor Rodriguez.
Quickly? Mr. Nascimento, glad to see you here. You guys have about 10 vacancies at the library. Are you having problems recruiting individuals for those positions, or are they just in the back burner coming forward in a sense? Because I counted at least 10 of them.
We are actively doing interviews. We had some bad luck in terms of people not accepting, being offered the position and then turning it down. We are, just today, I received job requisition forms from the mayor's office, which will allow me to then reach out to HR and have these positions filled. A lot of them are, like, say, for example, the full-time senior, I'm on page 334, and I'm at the last line. Full-time senior library assistant, children's department. That one has been filled.
I wasn't even looking at that one. I was looking at the up above. I mean, there's actually 10 listed in the other positions.
Yes.
Not necessarily on this one.
The reference librarian position, that one we are actively trying to fill. The children's librarian, that's one of the positions which I recently received a signed job requisition form from the finance department and signed also by the mayor's office. So I will be looking to fill that as soon as possible. I've received 7 job requisition forms signed, which I will now be working towards filling.
So the assistant circulation positions, are they part-time positions, very part-time positions? How many hours is that, do you know?
Those are 24 hours a week.
Okay. And your estimation, you think you're going to be able to fill those positions pretty soon?
Yes. I can say that with a high degree of confidence to you, Councilor.
Because, the more bodies you have in the library, then sometimes it's easy to keep an eye out for things that are going by the regular actions within the library.
Yes, sir.
And don't be afraid of throwing people out. I mean, I don't know who keeps bringing this thing up, that people can be doing illegal activities within certain buildings and not be tossed out, I think it's getting to a point where we have to put our foot down and basically say, if you're going to come in and use the facilities as you need to, great. If not, out the door you go, because it's not fair to a lot of us in this community. That library is a godsend in the sense, not all of us had computers, not all of us had the resources that other communities would have, so we would rely on the library. And I'm sure it's still the same thing for a lot of people in this community, and it makes no sense that we allow people to come from, especially from the other communities that come into Brockton, to do some of the activities that they're doing in Brockton and not be able to, toss them out when we need to toss them out. Because, the rule of law should still govern the public buildings that we have in this community.
Yes,
thank you,
Councilor.
and keep up the good work. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. So that's the end of questioning under library. Thank you for your time this evening, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, President.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, President.
Item 12, BEMA, Stephen Hook, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Director Hook, good evening.
Good evening, Council President, City Council members. Hope everyone's well. Just want to take a minute to thank my emergency management staff, volunteers, and city departments that have assisted the Emergency Management Agency this year. As you know, the Emergency Management Agency is a part-time agency charged with ensuring the city is prepared to withstand, respond to, and recover from all types of emergencies and disasters at a moment's notice. I want to knock on wood because it's been a pretty uneventful year so far. We've had a few snow emergencies and stuff like that, but nothing, and we've opened up the EOC a handful of times for that stuff, but it's been a pretty normal year. And as far as the budget goes, it's pretty level funded. There are some lines that have decreased and some lines that have increased slightly, but I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Councilors. Councilor Castro.
Thank you. As we discussed, Mr. Hook, your budget is up about $5,000, which, when you look at everything else or listen to what we all discussed tonight, which is beyond modest, and you do so much with so little, and I have no problem with it. Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Councilor.
You always answer the phone when I call. I'm sure you're cringing occasionally.
Not at all. Never.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor. Mr. Mayor, you have something to add?
Thank you. Yes, if I could, I just have to say how fortunate we are to have Steve Hook as our director of BEMA. You know, when I became mayor, we dealt with the pandemic. Steve and I and Dr. Herman and Dr. Montessori, we were together every single day. And the Brockton Hospital fire, he was on the front side of the hospital working with a lot of police chiefs from neighboring communities and fire chiefs. So he is moving into the new building, which is phenomenal. But his day job, this is a part-time job for him, but his day job has been invaluable to us when we're trying to figure out how to align police and fire communications in the new building. So I just wanted all you to know that, I mean, he doesn't have to do this job. He chooses to do this job. And I just want to thank him publicly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, councilors, that is the end of our agenda this evening. Just a quick announcement. We'll be beginning tomorrow's meeting at 5:45. There is we'll be swearing in a new Brockton Police Department officer. So I ask that those who can make it for 5:45, please do so. We will need a quorum for that swearing in. Outside of that, the budget hearings will kick off at 6 o'clock p.m. sharp. Great job tonight, colleagues. We appreciate your time, your thoughtful questions, and we'll do it again. Well, I stopped fully saying that. We'll do that again. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Meeting adjourned.